In 1998, a Lyme disease vaccine was approved for use in the US. 4 years later, public concerns about side effects like arthritis symptoms were high and sales were low. It was voluntarily discontinued by the manufacturer.
It was based on a protein that sits on the surface of Lyme disease, a bacterium that is called outer surface protein A. The scientific community set off to understand what might have been the cause of this very severe side effects. And so the hypothesis there is that the original vaccine contained a sequence that triggered our immune response to fight against our own body.
2 other companies are working on a new vaccine.
And now Pfizer, in collaboration with Valneva, they are testing the safety and efficacy of a new vaccine that is based on the same protein. However, the sequences that are thought to be responsible for these side effects have been removed. And the vaccine has gone through phase 1 and 2 of the clinical trials. And this vaccine needs to be delivered frequently, and boosters are required. And so this is a very hopeful new tool for the prevention of Lyme disease. Working in Lyme disease is never boring and an ever-evolving challenge. My work has spread in many fields, and so I work on cancer and other infectious diseases, and I think the lessons learned, for example, from tuberculosis and immune system reaction to cancer, for example, can inform the work that we do with Lyme disease. And so it's been a wonderful journey, and I'm looking forward to new scientific challenges and interact with patients and learn their stories and hopefully help them with their suffering.
So why are more people getting Lyme disease? The answer to that question is complex, just like the disease and the blood-sucking parasite that spreads it. Warmer global temperature means ticks are active earlier, so infected ones have more time to strike. The wildlife ticks feed on are moving to avoid changes to their habitats, so ticks are transported to new destinations and more opportunities for exposure to humans arise. High-profile celebrities have helped to elevate awareness among the public to get help and for health professionals to diagnose and treat it. But with multiple symptoms, it's still difficult to spot and test in the early stage. This edition of The Inquiry was presented by me, Charmaine Cozier. The producers were Jill Collins and Emma Ford, researcher Maeve Schaffer, editor Tara McDermott, and technical producer Richard Hannaford.
That was The Inquiry from the BBC. I'm Saroja Coelho here on CBC Radio 1. Have a great day.
Good morning, Manitoba, and hello there, Winnipeg. I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is Information Radio. We're live downtown in our CBC studios, and we're glad you could join us on this Wednesday, October the 8th. For our forecast, a sunny day ahead, a high of 15 in Winnipeg, and in Brandon, sunshine as well. You'll go to 18 today. It will be windy in both cities. And then up in the city of Thompson, mix of sun and cloud today and a high of 12 degrees. You'll have some cloud cover, though, that could creep in a little bit later this morning. The morning show is on till 8:37 a.m. Let's say good morning to the team. Mr. Corey Funk directs the show. He will also be in covering your commute. Abby Adiyemi is our senior tech on the show, and he covers weather on the air. And Darren Marash is the producer of our YouTube stream if you're watching the show there. All right, let's get to Heather Wells, also on our team in live in our news center this morning. She has headlines to start our day. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, former Manitoba Premier Heather Stefanson and 2 of her cabinet ministers have been fined thousands of dollars each for pushing for a sand mining project after losing the last provincial election. MLAs from all parties voted unanimously yesterday to accept recommendations of an ethics commissioner report finding they violated conflict of interest rules. The Premier says he believes Stefanson's fine at $18,000 should have been higher. Winnipeg Transit plans to run its on-request buses later into the night. The service says the service allows people in certain areas to book a ride when they need it, and it serves an area where ridership is too low to support a fixed route. We're going to hear how it's going to work coming up in our next local news at 6:30.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Well, speaking of politics, raised voices, personal attacks, and a whole lot of heckling. It is commonplace during question period, but is all of the fighting a disservice to Manitobans? And where are we at now with this current makeup of politicians? We're going to have that conversation this morning on the show. In addition, a popular haunted Halloween attraction was set to return this year in our community after a 4-year hiatus, but the plug's been pulled on Fear Winnipeg. We're going to find out why. Spoiler alert, they're having some challenges with permits, and now they want the city's permit process changed. So that's coming up a little later. In the first hour of the show, adventure is out there waiting for you. Whether you take it or not is up to you, but a Winnipeg organization hopes a series of short films will specifically inspire women to take more risk.
Today on Q.
The poet Katharina Vermette has been thinking a lot about the circle of life. Not like the Lion King, but like how if you have kids, you could be someone's great-great-grandparent. She'll be here with a new poetry collection that explores that premise, that we are all at once descendants and ancestors.
Because as we rise, we're bringing all of them with us.
Q with Tom Power. This morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland. And on the CBC Listen app. Or wherever you get your podcasts.
Report. Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. CBC News has learned Prime Minister Mark Carney raised the Keystone XL pipeline with U.S. President Donald Trump, and renewed interest in that project just may help open the door to tariff relief for Canadian steel and aluminum. Canada-U.S. Trade Minister Dominic LeBlanc says Canada is pushing to reach a deal on tariffs soon.
Steel and aluminum and energy. These sectors are amongst the ones that have faced the most significant challenges from the 232 tariffs. And in the conversation today, we talked about ways to quickly arrive at a deal that will bring a better circumstance to both countries.
A source who was not authorized to speak publicly told CBC Carney suggested Canada is interested in the pipeline again. Keystone XL was first proposed more than 15 years ago. It would move oil from northern Alberta to the U.S. Midwest, but the Obama administration shut down the project. Trump has said in the past he wants Keystone XL to be revived. The possibility of another oil pipeline is causing conflict between the premiers of Alberta and British Columbia. Katie DeRosa has the latest on that story.
It's a spat that escalated quickly. Last week, Alberta Premier Danielle Smith outlined her plan to get federal support for a proposed bitumen pipeline to British Columbia's north coast.
Major nation-building project.
BC Premier David Eby tried to be a good neighbor, tempering his opposition to the proposed pipeline. But now the gloves are off.
It's not the Danielle Smith show, it's the Canadian team. And we all deserve the same opportunity for the same federal funding for our projects as she does for her. That's not un-Canadian. That is fair.
Danielle Smith says
Premier Yb's comments are un-Canadian and they're unconstitutional.
Smith insists that private sector backers will build the pipeline if Ottawa removes roadblocks, such as the ban on tanker traffic off BC's north coast. That plan has the backing of Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe, who says no single group should be able to veto the project.
There is no BC coast, it's Canada's coast. There are no BC ports, they are Canada's ports.
Eby shot back.
I agree with Premier Moe. I think that all Canadians should be proud of our Pacific coast and the opportunities that affords all Canadians, including Premier Moe and the potash industry.
Following a meeting with the Prime Minister Monday, Danielle Smith insists that Mark Carney pledged to reach an agreement on the proposed pipeline by mid-November. David Eby, meanwhile, is calling on the PM to focus on shovel-ready projects, not what he calls a fictional pipeline. Katie DeRosa, CBC News, Victoria.
Some high-profile figures are joining the Gaza peace talks in Egypt. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff will be leading the U.S. delegation. He will be joined by Donald Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner. Israel and Hamas are continuing indirect negotiations to reach a ceasefire agreement put forward by the U.S. president. Yesterday marked 2 years since the Hamas attack on Israel. Pressure is mounting to end the war. The CBC's Crystal Gomansing has more from Jerusalem.
think the world have some forgot what Israel and what I've been through.
Hours after Yotan Shamriz, a survivor of October 7th, spoke at a memorial in Tel Aviv, more delegates are set to join peace talks in Egypt. Shamriz's brother, Alon, is one of the 48 hostages mediators are working to repatriate as a part of a 20-point agreement between Israel and Hamas.
We're in very serious negotiations.
U.S. President Donald Trump confirmed the arrival of American delegates in Sharm el-Sheikh yesterday and expressed optimism about a deal.
I think there's a possibility that we could have peace in the Middle East, even beyond the Gaza situation.
In an effort to nudge talks along, the president's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, is joining a team of mediators. The prime minister of Qatar and the head of Turkey's intelligence agency will also take part. Both of those nations have leverage as they could bar or expel Hamas. Egyptian officials have said talks are currently focused on initial steps in the plan: ending the war, bringing aid into Gaza, returning the hostages, and the release of Palestinian prisoners. Global leaders are encouraging all parties to seize the opportunity for peace. Crystal Gamansing, CBC News, Jerusalem.
NATO allies are in a race to protect underwater infrastructure against potential threats, and Russian surveillance ships are being accused of sabotage. As the CBC's Murray Brewster reports, discussions in Ottawa focused on the use of drones to protect subsurface cables and pipelines.
CRV.
Canadian Navy divers training to dispose of underwater mines and threats that are becoming more abundant around undersea pipelines and cables, particularly in the Baltic Sea and elsewhere in Europe, where there have been a rising number of cases of damage. Is it sabotage or accidents? Allies aren't sure, but are concerned about a Russian intelligence ship found loitering near those cables in the Baltic and off the UK. NATO has established a mission known as Baltic Sentry to monitor threats, but instead of divers, it's drones.
We are not building our own drones yet.
Germany's armaments minister, Jens Plotner, who has met with Canadian defense and naval officials to talk about possible cooperation on drones. Outside of Ukraine, which is redefining drone warfare, Canadian companies are among the most advanced researchers and manufacturers. Even still, Plotner says securing such a vast underwater network is going to have to be a responsibility shared with private pipeline and cable owners.
I do not think that it is the job of your government, nor of mine, to take care of every internet cable or pipeline down there. It's certainly also the responsibility of the companies. Can they do it alone? No, but they should significantly contribute.
A senior Swedish defense official was also in Ottawa recently, where drones were part of the discussion. Peter Sandwell, Sweden's state secretary for defense, says they'll do what's necessary to keep the Baltic Sea safe. Murray Brewster, CBC News, Ottawa.
National Guard troops are now just outside Chicago and preparing to deploy. The Guard members have been pulled in from Texas. It's part of the U.S. president's push to, as he says, crush crime in the city. The state and city are suing to block the deployment. Brandon Johnson is Chicago's mayor. He says it is unnecessary and unconstitutional.
The federal government is out of control. This is one of the most dangerous times in our nation's history. An unhinged, double-minded, simple-minded man who is not being held accountable.
A federal judge in Illinois has given the Trump administration until tonight to respond to the lawsuit. The suit is asking to block the mobilization of any National Guard troops in the state. The former director of the FBI will be arraigned today. James Comey will appear before a federal judge in Virginia. He's facing charges of obstructing a congressional proceeding and providing false statements. He could face up to 5 years in prison. But many see these charges as a way for U.S. President Donald Trump to take revenge on one of his political foes. The CBC's Willie Lowry joins me now from Washington. And Willie, what can you tell us about these charges?
The charges date back to an appearance Comey gave before the Senate Judiciary Committee on September 30th, 2020. During that hearing, Comey denied that he had ever authorized the leaking of information to the press. The government says that's not true and has accused him of lying and of obstructing a congressional proceeding. The former FBI director who led the Bureau from 2013 to 2017 says he's innocent and wants to prove it in court. For years, President Trump has railed against Comey, who led the initial investigation into Russia interference in the 2016 election.
So what happens next?
So Comey is set to appear in court in the Eastern District of Virginia in Alexandria. The proceeding is expected to be brief, with Comey hearing the charges against him. He is expected to enter a plea of not guilty, and it's possible that a trial date could then be set. But the mere fact that Comey will enter the courtroom is significant. Comey's indictment came shortly after President Trump implored Attorney General Pam Bondi to take action, and that has many Democrats concerned. In a Senate Judiciary Committee hearing, Bondi refused to discuss the case.
Is it true that the career prosecutors in the Eastern District of Virginia found that there was insufficient evidence to bring criminal charges against former Director Comey?
I am not going to discuss pending cases because Comey was indicted in the Eastern District of Virginia by, I may point out, one of the most liberal grand juries in the country.
If convicted, Comey could face up to 5 years in prison.
All right, thanks, Willie.
My pleasure.
The CBC's Willie Lowry in Washington. And that is the latest national and international news from World Report. News anytime, cbcnews.ca. And if you like the World Report podcast, follow us and tell a friend. It helps spread the word. I'm Marcia Young.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'm R.C. Marcusa. This is Information Radio. We're live in downtown Winnipeg, and thanks for being with us. It is Wednesday, October the 8th. It's clear in the city. It's 6 degrees in Winnipeg right now. Coming up this hour on CBC, adventure is waiting for you out there. Whether you take it or not is up to you. But a Winnipeg organization hopes a series of short films are going to specifically inspire more women to get out there and explore. We're going to hear more about that in an event coming up in the city around it. Also, we'll hear more about a new global report this week that talks about the growing shift away from generating electricity from coal in favor of solar and wind power. So that's ahead this hour. And was the second time a charm? Now that we've had some time to settle on that meeting yesterday, we're going to have a closer look at Prime Minister Carney's meeting with U.S. President Donald Trump and discuss what was accomplished. Stay tuned. Right now, though, headlines with Heather Wells.
Good morning. Well, some people in Wolseley are shaken up, literally, about a new bus route running down their street. Changes to the Winnipeg transit system resulted in more than 100 buses running up and down Arlington between Portage and Wolseley. We're going to hear from some people who live in that neighborhood coming up. As well, people in Brandon will soon have to head to the city's east side to drop off extra recycling. The city's closing all its community recycling depots. It says it's to help curb issues like illegal dumping and contamination. One woman in Brandon worries these closures will actually have the opposite effect. I'll be back with more Manitoba news coming up at 6:30.
Are you going to have the update, though, later on the illegal dumplings?
I know, dumplings, sometimes they're so good, they should be illegal. Okay, I'm having trouble today. There was a big game on last night.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, my gosh.
Now, see, you stayed up longer than I did. I didn't see the whole thing, but yeah, it didn't end the way Jays fans had hoped.
No, it did not. So the Jays going down to the Yankees last night, it sure started the way Jays fans had hoped.
Oh, yeah. Vladdy
came out and right away, home run, 2-shot home run, but nope, not to be. You know what? There were some errors. You can't have errors against the Yankees, right? But on the other hand, too, they played, right? Yeah. Aaron Judd had a, I think it was a 3-shot homer for him.
Yeah, he did. He did, yeah.
So we'll see what happens tonight, Heather Wells.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Heather's back with full news at 6:30, as she said. Okay, weather. Abby, what's going on?
Yeah, Marcy, it's going to be another sunny one, but a chilly start across board this morning. Mild air will be returning to most of the regions. The southern areas will see temperatures climb close to 20 degrees, while up north we'll see temperatures near the mid-teens today. In the Red River Valley region in Winnipeg right now, depending on where you are, we're seeing 3 to 6 degrees under mainly clear conditions. Sunshine will stick around all day with the winds coming from the south, and we'll see temperatures around 15 degrees today. It stays clear and mild, and temperature drops around 9 degrees across board. Pembina Valley, the Westman, the Interlake region, we're seeing temperatures between 0 and 11 at this time. Most of the regions warming close to 20, while up north we're seeing 6 degrees to 15, the highs for most of the areas up north. But Winnipeg, right now we're looking at 6 degrees under mainly clear conditions, and we're warming up close to 20 degrees today. We might get to 20 today.
All right. Well, we'll see. That would be okay. I guess it really depends what's going to be happening with the wind conditions. So 15 is the, I guess, forecast high. But we'll have to see what happens. And across the region, certainly, we could get to 20 tomorrow. 19 is into tomorrow. We do have some rain, by the way, in the long-term forecast. Looks like Saturday, Sunday, we'll have some rain. All right, Corey ran out. You might have heard the phone ringing. Was that traffic related?
Yeah, that was Tim. He was calling to say southbound Archibald at Marion. In the far left lane, actually, a traffic light got knocked down by, looks like a truck has collided with it. And now it's actually fallen down and it's blocking the far left turning lane. So you got to keep right to get around that. So it's southbound Arlington at Maryland. The traffic light is knocked down. And you can't get around it. So you got to get around it by keeping right. So it might be tough turning left as well there. It looks like it just happened, says Tim. So look out for that. If you have any other updates, be like Tim. Thanks for making me run all the way into the studio. Keep those calls coming. That number to call, 204-788-3093.
So that number, once again, if you need a traffic tip there, is 788-3093, or if you want to pass one along, rather. Well, I was asking about traffic, transit specifically, that aspect of traffic on Facebook today. As you heard Heather say in the news, there's some changes the city is now making to some of their services when it comes to the big new transit system that rolled out this year in Winnipeg. So I'm just simply asking on Facebook today, if you check out my Marcy Marcusa page during the show, acts as a show page, how's the bus service going for you, Winnipeg? Lonnie Disaster actually wrote in, and this is interesting because she's writing in on behalf of others, but also is having a good experience. So she said, I feel really frustrated for the folks who've been relying on the old routes to do all the things they need to do in a day. The changes were drastic for many, but for me, my bus route changed for the better. I now bus daily to work instead of driving. So that's a big change for at least one listener. If you want to weigh in, that conversation started on my Facebook page, and you can also call us anytime at 788-3205. Well, next on the show, for decades, the world of adventure sports was a boys' club, but that is changing. One film event is documenting it.
Women have some really great stories to tell, and they should be out there telling them, that's for sure.
I want to see more girls behind the camera. The game is changing and it's moving in the right direction.
That's a clip from a film that we're about to talk about. For nearly a decade, the Women's Adventure Film Tour has been giving women in extreme outdoor sports the opportunity to tell their stories. That's part of what we're hearing. Now, this is making its way to Winnipeg next week. Tara Guerra is with us. She's with Wilderness Supply. That's one of the groups who helped bring this event to Winnipeg, and she joins us now on Information Radio. Good morning.
Good morning, Marcy. Thanks for having us.
Thanks so much for being with us. So let's get to the premise here. I understand in the past women have been missing, as I outlined it, from extreme outdoor sports. Why do you think that is?
I think it just comes down to just history and tradition in the past. Women traditionally were at home, men went out, and it went from just the gear that they sell to even the marketing in the outdoors, to the guides that we see. And really it was always geared towards men. But women have always belonged in these spaces. And it's just taken us a little while to kind of visibly catch up. We're seeing more full lines of women gear now coming out, and more women in marketing campaigns. And women guides. So it's great to have an event like this come to our city because it shows that women absolutely belong in the outdoors just like the men do.
When we talk about extreme outdoor sports and what we're discussing here, are we talking about things like, I don't know, extreme hikes or climbs, or give us a range of kind of what we mean by this?
Yeah, like we're thinking mountain climbing, cycling. There's a movie about an aerialist. So really it's just like any type of sports. It doesn't necessarily have to be you don't necessarily have to be a professional athlete. It's just regular kind of normal people as well, not just athletes.
When were you always an outdoors person yourself, Tara, or was this something that you came to later in your life?
No, I actually have been an outdoors person kind of my entire life. I really came into it when I was in high school. My high school had an incredible outdoor ed program. My dad was an avid outdoorsman, and that's how I got into the outdoors.
What do you love about it?
I really just love how I just feel so at peace when I'm outdoors, and I can really connect, get away from all the noise of living in the city, and just be there connecting with nature. It removes the stress out of my life, and it gives me something nothing else can do that I've found.
It's interesting because I'm seeing a lot of people post now. These are just in my own threads here, but they're Manitobans, and I'm seeing a lot of people post like they'll be going on trips with all women, trips, into the backwoods, and people are posting with this. One of them recently, I won't identify the person for privacy, but said their post was actually, I think it was menopausal women can do this. So she was sort of attaching an age of women to this as well, this sort of stigmas that exist, What kind of reaction do you typically get when you get, for example, when you tell people you're going on a hike on your own, for example?
Well, I'm still getting things like, aren't you scared? Or you're going alone? Why isn't your husband going with you? So yeah, I really want to start changing the conversation in that. And I want people to say things to women more like, wow, that's amazing, or that's so empowering, good for you. Because if we can say these things to the women who are doing that and encourage them, it'll get more women to step outside of their comfort zone and get into the outdoors.
So this event is inspiring in itself, or that's sort of part of the purpose. What are some of the movies that people can see?
Well, we have a great cycling movie. I'm not going to reveal too much, but we have a wonderful cycling movie. There's a climbing movie, an aerial movie that takes place in actually Banff and Banff and Jasper National Parks here in Canada, which is amazing. One of my favorites is one of the cycling films, and I'm not actually into cycling. It's not my sport, but there's this girl named Mackenzie Barney, and I just really love her story. She has a great outlook on life. She's very inspiring, and she just talks about how our time is so precious and what we do with our time, and I really connect with that story. So I think that's one of my favorites.
What advice would you give someone who's been considering being maybe more adventurous, but maybe they are nervous about it?
You know what? I would say just really start small. You don't need to go off and go on like a week-long backpacking adventure. You don't need to climb a mountain. You could join a group like Backcountry Women or take a canoe trip with Riversong Wilderness. These are two amazing women-ran outfitting companies here in Manitoba. We have lots of opportunity. You can go try a popular hike at first, like go to Birds Hill, or one of my favorites is Pine Point Hiking Trail in the Whiteshell. It's really where I started solo hiking. Go to somewhere where there's people, so you kind of like start building that confidence and building that trust in yourself, and then you'll see really that you're really capable to take that to the next level.
Thanks very much for being with us this morning. Really appreciate this, and we'll give people a chance to think about going next week to the West End Cultural Centre to watch this.
Thank you so much, Marcy.
That is Tara Gare. She's an events planner with Wilderness Supply here in Winnipeg. The Women's Adventure Film Tour is on next Wednesday. If you want to check it out, you are going, as mentioned, to the West End Cultural Centre.
There are many people who bring success, innovation, accomplishment, and charity to our community. We'd like you to help us meet some of the best. CBC Future 40 will honor 10 Manitobans under 40 making a difference. Help us discover the inspiring people in our province by nominating a shining star in your community today. For details, visit cbc.ca/future40mb.
It is 6:23 a.m. on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and YouTube. It is Wednesday morning, October the 8th, and we're glad you're with us. I'm Marcy Marcusa with our team here at Information Radio, your morning show on CBC. And not a bad morning. I mean, it's chilly out there, but we told you it was going to be like this all week. So 6 degrees is where we're at right now in the city. Our high today will be 15 degrees and lots of sun and windy today. So windy, wind south 30 to 50. And that'll matter if you're biking, especially. Well, next on the show, move over coal and make way for the sun. A new global report out this week shows that for the first time ever, wind and solar farms are across the world, and they're generating more electricity than coal plants. That's in the first 6 months of 2025. The report from think tank Ember looked at power generated in 88 different countries, although overall the renewable power shift was led by China and India. To talk about the report and to see where Canada's at with renewables, Mark Winfield is up early and with us via Zoom. He's a professor of environmental and urban change at York University and co-chair of the Sustainable Energy Initiative. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
So what was your reaction to this global renewables report?
I think it's consistent with what we've seen from other sources, that we've been seeing very, very rapid growth in the role of renewables in certain parts of the world. And so in that context, and we know that China in particular has been a leader in that. So in that context, this is not terribly surprising. It's sort of what we would have expected we would have reached at some point relatively soon.
The report also reflects how countries are moving away from coal, in addition to the rise of renewables. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, I think this is a function of a number of different things. In China, there has been a realization for some time that there were sort of limits to how much you could rely on coal in terms of the environmental consequences, not just in terms of greenhouse gas emissions, but air pollution, to the point where it gets in the way of economic development. Indeed, has significant health implications as well. And so there was a very conscious decision, particularly on China's part, to be the global leader on renewable energy technologies, advanced batteries, electric vehicle manufacturing. The other factors that are at work here is that costs for renewables have fallen dramatically. And there is also much greater flexibility. You can deploy wind and solar, especially very, very quickly at a household level. It's overnight, with much greater scalability and flexibility relative to the costs and risk of building big coal plants or big nuclear plants, for that matter, which can can take decades. These technologies are much, much more responsive to changing energy demand.
I will ask about the States, which is the elephant in the world room, in a moment. But I just want to ask about Canada first. Where do we fit in? How are we doing on renewables and addressing the state of our power grids?
At the moment, we're mostly dead in the water. And indeed, Canada's experience has been defined by instability and inconsistency. We've been through periods where we've had very, very rapid build out of renewables here in Ontario. Between 2006 and 2018, we built 8,000 megawatts, nearly 3 Niagara Falls, and then came to a screeching halt when the Ford government arrived in 2018, and the renewable development since then has been zero. The focus of attention then shifted to Alberta, and Alberta was having a very rapid build out of renewables as well. But then the Smith government adopted a whole series of first a moratorium and then a series of policies that make renewables development almost impossible. So we've kind of had a very distinct boom bust kind of pattern, which is very different from China, who've been very consistent in their direction. The pattern we've seen in Canada has probably tended to discourage investment in manufacturing and other value-added activities, because we keep going from 100 to 0 and back again with no consistency.
And why is that happening? Is that political will? Is that lack of funding? Is that changing governments? Why are we ping-ponging back and forth?
common changes in governments have been certainly in Ontario, where famously the Ford government, when it arrived, canceled over 700 renewable energy projects, literally had wind turbines ripped out of the ground at considerable expense to the taxpayers, and renewable energy development went to zero, where it's been now for the last 7 years. In Alberta, there were rumblings in rural Alberta about wind, especially, to which the Smith government responded to say with first a moratorium and then a set of rules which make development almost impossible. So it is political, in the sense that if we do serious analysis, these emerge as very low cost options. But we have governments that don't like wind or solar very much, and therefore are basically erected barriers to their adoption.
The report reveals the continuing reliance on generating electricity with fossil fuels in Western countries. So let me ask you about, particularly in the U.S., but also in the EU, what are holding those countries back from shifting to renewables?
Well, in the EU, we've seen a rise in the short term of the role of coal-fired electricity because of the war in Ukraine and the loss of access to Russian natural gas, which was being used as a transitional fuel. The Europeans remain on a pathway very strongly focused on renewables. There is a convergence of energy security and climate rationales for doing that. So I think the rise there is certainly intended to be temporary in response to the situation with Ukraine. In the U.S., it's somewhat more complicated in the sense that we know the Trump administration is explicitly hostile to renewables. Trump digs coal. But how it will actually play out in the U.S. is unclear, because coal was already in very, very significant decline in the U.S. as a source of electricity as a result of the adoption of renewables, but also the availability of large supplies of fracked natural gas, both of which were cheaper. So that shift in the U.S. may be more structural.
Mm-hmm.
There may not be that much Donald Trump can actually do about it. It really comes down to utilities and state governments in terms of where they go. I mean, Texas, of all places, is the leader in renewable energy development in the United States.
Thank you very much for being with us, Mark Winfield, and especially interesting on a morning where we're about to hear about Mark Carney's trip down to the States. We're also hearing breaking news from the oil patch today. So thank you for being here.
Great, thank you.
Mark Winfield, Professor of Environmental and Urban Change at York University. A quick traffic note here. Southbound Archibald at Marion, traffic standard is down. Be careful there. That might be a problem still. 788-3093. Your news is next.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 6:30, it is 6 degrees in Winnipeg. We're headed to a high today of 15. It's going to be sunny, but watch out for that wind. South 30 gusting to 50 this afternoon. Former Manitoba Premier Heather Stephenson and two of her cabinet ministers have been fined thousands of dollars each for pushing for a sand mining project after losing the last provincial election.
All those in the House in favor, please rise.
MLAs from all parties voting unanimously yesterday to accept recommendations of an Ethics Commissioner report. That report found Stephenson, former Deputy Premier Cliff Cullen, and former Economic Development Minister Jeff Wharton violated conflict of interest rules. Stephenson must now pay $18,000 for her post-election push to approve the CO Silica sand mining proposal. Cliff Cullen was fined $12,000, while Jeff Wharton, who is still a sitting MLA, must pay $10,000. Current PC leader Abi Khan wouldn't say what he thinks of their actions.
What they did is clearly laid out in the report, and we accept the finding of the report. I think that the commissioner found that there was wrongdoing done by the members listed, and there's a fine. So I accept that.
Premier Wab Kinew says he believes Stephenson's fine should have been higher. The city is looking at reducing the speed limit along Arlington in the Wolseley area. Changes to the transit system led to a flood of buses running up and down Arlington. Some people living in the area say it's a problem. They say the size and frequency of the buses is literally shaking their houses and causing safety concerns. Public Works Chair Councillor Janice Lukes wants to see if other streets need the same treatment.
I'm going to ask the department if they can come back with a brief report. We don't want to be doing these one-offs. We want to look at the big picture and have Public Works Department come forward with a recommendation. And we need that anyways with the bylaw to do a speed change.
Transit put a reduced speed mandate in place along Arlington in July, but residents say some bus drivers aren't complying. A Manitoba housing advocate is encouraged by an injection of private sector money to help build transitional housing in the province. Jamil Mahmoud at Main Street Project says it is encouraging to see its backers put the needs of people over financial gain, and he hopes more businesses follow suit.
To see now a different approach, an approach that is really conscious of the needs for supportive housing and the right type of housing to meet the needs of our community, and then obviously investments of to this level of I think it's the province put in 10, there's 7 million here, like that's a pretty big investment.
The Collaborative Housing Alliance Real Investment Trust announced yesterday says it received a combined $7 million from True North and the Mann Family Foundation. Last year, the province spent $10 million to start that trust. CBC News has learned Prime Minister Mark Carney raised the Keystone XL pipeline in his meeting yesterday with U.S. President Donald Trump. Keystone XL would move oil from northern Alberta to the American Midwest, but both the Obama and Biden administrations kept that project from moving forward. Trump has said in the past he wants to revive Keystone. It's possible Carney is prepared to use it as leverage in his tariff talks with the White House. You can hear the latest national and international news coming up on World Report at 7. Winnipeg Transit plans to run its on-request buses later into the night. The service allows people in certain areas to book a ride when they need it. It serves areas where ridership is too low to support a fixed route, but it currently ends just after 10 at night, too early for many shift workers. Bjorn Radstrom at Winnipeg Transit says this is the first part of the city's plan to extend late-night service.
Because the service doesn't follow a fixed route and only picks up and drops off the people that are actually booking trips, we can cover a bigger area with 1 or 2 vehicles, as opposed to if it was fixed routes, we might need half a dozen vehicles or something like that. So it's a more cost-effective way, and it ends up providing better service because instead of a bus coming every 30 or 40 minutes, it can come a lot quicker than that.
The city of Brandon is shutting down its community recycling depots. They say depots are closing because of ongoing issues, including illegal dumping and contamination. Instead of cardboard or canned recyclables, chairs and strollers are often stuffed into bins. Bin lids have been damaged. Denise Laguerre lives in Brandon and says she's seen the mess some people leave and worries forcing people to take recycling to the landfill will be hard for some.
I do know that for seniors, people without vehicles, it will be much harder because making it down to the land site is difficult, and you also hazard your tires.
The depots will close in stages starting October 14th. And a tough loss for Blue Jays fans.
Diving stop at third by Caballero. He will throw him out, and that's the ball game.
New York Yankees beating the Toronto Blue Jays 9-6 last night in Game 3 of the American League Division Series. The Jays were ahead 6-1 at the start of the night, but the Yankees roared back. Toronto leads the best of 5, 2-1, Game 4 tonight in New York. You can find more Manitoba news at cbc.ca/Manitoba.
New night. New opportunities.
Yeah, fresh start. Just shake it off.
Yep, exactly. Thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
That's my shake it off sound effect. Let's get to what's going on in our regional forecast. Abby, what's up?
Good morning, Marcy. Another cool start, but sunny and mild air will be returning across the southern parts of the province. We're seeing temperatures warm up to 20 degrees in most of the regions down south today. Winnipeg, we are at 6 degrees. It is clear outside. Sunshine will hold through the day. We'll see some winds from the south. Highs will be around 15 degrees. Similar conditions we're seeing in the Pembina Valley region, which is around 3 degrees at this time. Also enjoying some clear skies. Sunshine and breezy southerly winds will flow through that region today. Highs will be around 16 by the afternoon period. In the Westman region, Brandon and surrounding communities starting off around 0 with clear skies. Mild southerly breeze at this point that will bring plenty of sunshine and push temperatures up to 18 degrees later in the day. Up in the Parkland region, Dauphin all the way down to Russell, we're looking at 11 degrees right now. Sunshine on its way to that part of the province. We'll get some gusty south winds later in the day, but that would keep things warm, reaching a high of 19 by the afternoon period. Gimli is currently enjoying some clear conditions now. temperatures around 6 degrees. Some breezy conditions from the south will develop through the morning with sunshine along with that. Highs around 15. For the powerful influence surrounding communities, we're looking at temperature sitting around 7 degrees at this time. Mostly clear there. A bit of cloud mix expected this afternoon and a mild southerly breeze. We'll see temperatures close to 16 degrees later. For Thompson, we're looking at 3 degrees right now, mostly cloudy there. The cloud will thicken as the day goes on. Temperatures will climb near a high of 12 degrees. And for Churchill, chilly -4 right now with mainly clear skies. Clouds will build later. We do have a slim chance of showers in that part of the province later in the afternoon, warming up to 7 degrees. Overall, Marcy, it's a bright and mild October with sunshine dominating the south and some clouds in the north. Winnipeg, we are at 6 right now.
Your Facebook feed's been fun to watch. You've been taking some gorgeous photos of the moon lately.
Just enjoying the moon. I just try to follow that new moon phase like 3 days before the full moon all the way to the blood moon. And yesterday I was at just a bus stop, just waiting to cross, and I saw it so far away. I zoomed in and I captured that beautiful ball in the sky.
Yeah, it's been really showing off lately, hasn't it?
It's been showing off.
Yeah. Thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Corey Funk, what's up?
You don't normally have to squint when you look at the moon, but I was driving eastbound Portage yesterday, and I was I had almost had to put down my my visor.
Right? Yeah, it's been really something. There's lots of great photos. If you have one to share, by the way, listeners, we'd love to see it. You can always email us, radio893@cbc.ca, or you can post on Facebook too. That's an easy way to share. What are you hearing on the traffic line?
Yeah, it's really just that one issue I heard earlier from Tim. Southbound Archibald at Marion, it looks like a truck has knocked down a traffic standard, and so it's blocking that far left turning lane at southbound Archibald at Marion. So you have to keep right to get around that. Not sure how backed up it is or exactly at this point what it's meant for the actual all-around lights, if they're still working or not. So if you have any updates on that, or if you see anything else going on out there, you can give me a call on the CBC commuter line, and I'll let folks know what you're seeing out there. That number to call, be like Tim, 204-788-3093.
All right, thanks a lot, Corey.
Thank you.
Hallie Cottonham's here with our business news now. Hi there.
Good morning, Marcy. I have to take some responsibility for the Jays' loss last night.
Why?
I tweeted
be careful
when it
here
was
now.
6-1. I tweeted, Bronx Bombers indeed. I tweeted that out.
Oh no.
Yeah.
You know what? I don't worry. I feel your pain. On the air, when the Jets or the Bombers, whenever they're on some kind of roll, I'll say something like, "Oh yeah," and then inevitably, I feel your pain. Tonight's a new night. Let's talk about the oil patch. We've been hearing a little bit of this. There's some breaking news this morning around this.
Yeah, Cenovus has sweetened its offer to acquire MEG Energy. It's now willing to pay $29.80 a share. It's in a bid to match the rival bid from Strathcona Resources. This has put the value of MEG at around $8.6 billion Canadian. And Cenovus is saying that this is its best and final offer. All three companies have operations in the same region of northern Alberta, and Strathcona initially launched a hostile bid for MEG back in the spring. This story continues, obviously.
Let's move to the big story that people are still analyzing, the Prime Minister's trip to Washington, Hallie, to resurrect a marketing slogan from way back. Where's the beef? Do you remember that one?
I do.
That little
vaguely.
lady?
Yeah.
I'm really dating on myself right now.
Not so much of a juicy bone after all. Marcy, Prime Minister Mark Carney is coming home with no deal to lift U.S. tariffs, although Dominic LeBlanc, the minister responsible for Canada-U.S. trade, has stayed back to continue talks, as will Foreign Affairs Minister Anita Anand. And we are hearing from sources this morning that Carney did discuss the possibility of reviving the Keystone XL pipeline with Trump. But you're right, there's been a lot of analysis, a lot of parsing about what was said publicly yesterday in that weird, rambling, and rowdy news conference.
He's a good man. He does a great job, but he's a tough negotiator.
Then what's holding things up? If he's a great man and you want to do a deal with Canada, why aren't you?
Because I want to be a great man, too.
A lot less laughter back home, though, Marcy. The opposition jumped on one of the few comments that Carney made publicly about $1 trillion investment by Canada in the U.S. over the next 5 years. Pierre Poilievre says Carney made this concession without getting anything in return. So nothing concrete so far for Canadians hit hard by tariffs. We talked yesterday about our growing trade deficit, and it's all part of a larger picture of uncertain times worldwide, and that's driving up the price of gold as a safe haven, Marcy. It pushed past $4,000 an ounce yesterday for the first time.
And let's move on to this online word game that a lot of us have played, Wordle. There's some good news for people.
Yeah, it's being turned into a television game show. NBC has ordered a pilot. It's chosen a host, Savannah Guthrie. And the show, which, as you know, is owned by the New York Times, will be produced by a familiar name, Jimmy Fallon. Turns out he's a fan. Will it work on TV, though? Turns out Fallon gave it a try on The Tonight Show when Wordle was new back in 2022.
You guess the first 5 letters, right? And if you're close, it gives you a yellow square. If you're completely correct, they give you a green square. But I think we could play together. Let's do it. So is my screen?
By the way, he goes on to get the guess in 5. Last year, Wordle was played by 5.3 billion times, or at least that's how many times it was played. And in other game show news, Marcy, Netflix is turning that murder mystery board game Clue, that iconic game, into a reality game show. Contestants will collect clues before deducing the who, the where, and the with what of a crime.
Neither of those sit well with me. I think I'd rather have the board game and the online Wordle, but
Okay.
We'll see. The jury's out. And before you go this morning, you have a story about Bob Ross. Who doesn't love Bob Ross? Remember on PBS with his paintbrush?
Yes. Turns out 30 of his paintings are going to be auctioned off to support struggling PBS stations. This after Congress in the U.S. eliminated more than $1 billion in federal funding. Now, Ross died of cancer in 1995, and he was so well known for his demeanor. He would finish one of these paintings in the course of a 30-minute episode, famously dabbing on little happy trees onto his canvas.
Make those little leaves and branches just pop right out at you. These little son of a guns hide in your brush, and you just have to push them out. This is your world, your creation.
So 30 of his paintings will go up on the block with an estimated value of more than $1.5 million US. And because this is October, Marcy, I'll just leave you with this. Last year, a little Bob Ross came to the door trick-or-treating with the big hair and the painting brush.
That's a great costume.
I thought it was a good one.
I love, there was no one like him, right? He was so chill, and yet he create this thing in 30 minutes, like you said. And you're like, how did that even happen, Bob?
I can't say I'm a big fan of the actual art. A bit of hungry, starving artist look about it. But in any case, it's all going to a good cause now.
All right. Thank you very much, Hallie.
Thanks, Marcy.
Hallie Cottenham with our business news. And before we move on, actually, let's go right to Corey, who's here with a traffic tip. Corey.
Yeah, just got 2 calls from both Jeff and Jamie. Eastbound Cumberland is closed at Sherbrooke right now, so you can't get down Cumberland past Sherbrooke. There's emergency vehicles on scene. Not sure exactly what's going on there, but just heads up there. You can't get eastbound Cumberland past Sherbrooke right now. We're taking a look into what's going on there in our news desk right now. But other than that, keep an eye on southbound Archibald at Maryland. There's a traffic light down blocking the far left lane last I heard. If you have any updates on that or anything else you're seeing, 204-788-3093.
A little bit of music on CBC's Morning Show next. Kaylee Cardinal is a singer-songwriter with a powerful voice. She hails from Alberta. We played her time to time in the show. This one, though, has a bit of tenderness in it. This is called The Only Way Out.
When the leaves fall in September, I always think of you, rolling cigarettes and change, covering whatever bills were due. A twin mattress on the floor, we didn't need much to get by, wasting days wrapped in each other, wasting nights staying high. But your heart was always troubled, no matter what I tried. I couldn't love you enough to save your life. When I'm looking backwards, I know that it's true, that the passing of time paints a rosy view. 'Cause your demons were always hunting, ready You did what you could to get by. The only way out was through. And your heart was always troubled. No matter how you tried, couldn't love you hard enough to save your life. And I could say, if I had only, I can cry every night. But my darling, the truth is, it wasn't my fate. I'm gonna love you forever, tell the stories you shone bright. I'm gonna bind you to the moon, gonna feel you in its light. 'Cause your heart was always troubled. No matter how I tried, I couldn't love you hard enough to change your life. And my love, we can only do the best that we can do. 'Cause you're only way out. My only way out. Our only way out is through.
I love a good acoustic version. That is Kaylee Cardner. Her tune is The Only Way Out. And this is high praise coming from me. You got to know I love Pink. I think she sounds a little like Pink on that track. I don't know about you. But that's music from an Alberta artist here on CBC. If you have an artist you'd like to hear, by the way, on the show, you can always pitch us. 788-3205. You're listening to Information Radio.
I'm Suresh Das. I've spent my career writing about the local favorites that make Canada's food scene truly unique. I bit into a chili. Woo! From vibrant street food to comforting traditional dishes.
The most important ingredients in jollof rice, love.
To innovative, personal twists.
Butter chicken lasagna.
Butter chicken lasagna.
That's what made it all happen.
I believe every bite tells a story. Now, I want to share those stories with you.
New series Locals Welcome with Suresh Das. Watch free on CBC Gem.
It is 11 minutes to 7 o'clock on CBC. I'm Marcy Marcusa. Well, let's talk about Future 40. It is back. We're so excited about this. This is an initiative at CBC Manitoba that we've had running since 2013, and we celebrate the province's new generation of leaders, builders, and change makers under the age of 40. So we select 10 recipients from all different nominations, and nominations are now open for CBC Manitoba Future 40. They close at the end of the month, October 29th, and I always say this when we start to talk about it and encourage you to get nominate someone. Don't overthink this. If you have someone in your life that you think should be recognized for whatever it is that they do and how they contribute to building our province, and maybe it's yourself. So also don't be shy or too humble. Let us know about the work that you're doing in Manitoba. If you want more information about nominating someone, you can go to the website. It's cbc.ca/future40MB, and the 40 is a number there, 40. So cbc.ca/future40MB. Well, it was all appearances and a friendly meeting. Prime Minister Mark Carney in Washington yesterday, and in a press conference in the Oval Office, President Donald Trump had these kind words for our PM.
He's a world-class leader. He's a man that knows what he wants, and I'm not surprised to see that he won the election and won it substantially, and I would think he's more popular now. He's a good man. He does a great job, and he's a tough negotiator.
Then what's holding things up? If he's a great man and you want to do a deal with Canada, why aren't you?
Because I want to be a great man, too.
Well, you've now heard that moment a number of different times, right? It stood out. But there's nothing in there about a deal. Speaking to reporters after the meeting, Dominic LeBlanc, Minister for Canada-U.S. Trade, said it ended with plans to continue the conversation and to quickly land deals. But what does that even mean? What was accomplished here? Laurie Turnbull is with us, Professor of Political Science at Dalhousie University. Good morning.
Good morning.
So what's your impression of how this meeting went?
Well, I mean, it looks like they got along. It looks like the mood in the room was cordial. And, as we heard, the president had nice things to say about the prime minister. There was some kind of weird vibes to it for me sometimes, like when president said that the prime minister could be nasty sometimes. And you could see the look on the prime minister's face, like not really sure what he's talking about. So, I mean, ultimately, I think the conversation seems to have gone well, but I don't know that anything changed in terms of tariffs and trade.
I thought it was telling when the Prime Minister talked about change the language. So Donald Trump used the word conflict. We're in conflict over some things, and the Prime Minister said, "I don't know that I'd use the word conflict. I might say in competition." And then this sort of led us to that whole other moment that I thought was significant, which was talking about the auto industry, right? And talking about Donald Trump saying, basically, I want it, and you want it. That doesn't really probably leave a lot of Canadians feeling like there's room there for ongoing partnership. What was your sense of some of that?
So I felt that the way President Trump was describing the relationship between the two countries was totally counter to what we have come to be used to in terms of an integrated supply chain interdependence between the two countries. He's setting up a zero-sum kind of proposition and saying that we're competing for the same customers. And Americans don't want to buy Canadian cars. They want to buy American cars, and they want to have everything built in the US, and they want it to be like their steel, their industries, their business. And he boasted about the fact that the tariffs have driven companies away from Canada into the US. And so Carney comes across with a kind of counter narrative that actually everything isn't zero sum, and there are things that the countries can achieve together so that everybody wins. But those narratives are fundamentally different. And if Trump is coming at this with a sense that a Canadian win is an American loss, I don't see how that leads us to a better position in terms of tariffs. It seems to me that he's doubling down on the rhetoric that the tariffs are helping, as opposed to, backing away from it in any way.
We're living next door to a very different country than we have before, and it's evolving as we speak, right? So I think we're in this situation where it's difficult to know whether it's a failure of this government to get a deal, or how careful they have to be to keep a delicate balance given what's evolving. What's your sense of that? And also for Mark Carney, doing this and not appearing weak at home?
Yeah, it seems to me that the Prime Minister has a way of sort of sitting there and letting Trump take the oxygen out of the room. I think President Trump wants to be admired. He wants to be heard. He wants to have that dominant narrative throughout these sorts of things. And so the Prime Minister sits there, he interjects, he gets his points across, but he lets Trump be the dominant voice in the room. And I think that's largely to keep the peace with him. It's because he knows that this is the way Trump operates. But at the same time, I think it makes it difficult for the Prime Minister to, again, come home with this sense that he's accomplished something. Now, we've all really dug into this narrative around there's going to be a victory. When is the victory going to happen? What is he going to get? When is the win coming? And I think the opposition really wants us to use that narrative and that framework for analyzing what these meetings really mean. But I wonder if this is just kind of a march toward the Kuzma negotiations. This is Mark Carney playing the long game. I'm not sure that he really thought anything would come of yesterday's meeting in terms of moving the needle on tariffs, for example.
Will it be fair, just because you mentioned Pierre Poilievre, who did say yesterday that Carney has to come back with some wins for Canada. Will it be fair then, moving ahead to Kuzma negotiations, to then judge the Prime Minister if he comes back with nothing then?
Well, people can use whatever framework they want to judge the Prime Minister, but I think what he campaigned on, right, was he is going to be better suited to deal with this. That doesn't mean he's going to be a Trump whisperer. He's going to be able to get through to Trump and get him to change his mind on things. But more that the whole thing, right, like whether it's the negotiations with the US or finding other trade partnerships and shoring up Canada's economy in different ways, including major projects, including more internal trade, those sorts of things. It seems like Prime Minister Carney campaigned on the whole bit, but nothing is going to replace the US as a reliable trading partner. Nothing is going to replace that relationship, really. With this is a huge source of instability for us. And so the Prime Minister will be judged at some point on how he managed that relationship. And I think we aren't really going to know that for another while. I think we're not going to know until we really get into CUSMA whether we're able to keep that relationship on track in any way.
Thanks very much, Lori. Really appreciate this.
Thanks for having me. Take care.
You too. That's Lori Turnbull, professor of political science at Dalhousie University. Let's go to local news headlines now in Manitoba. It's 3 minutes to 7 o'clock. Here's Heather Walls.
Good morning. Well, former Manitoba Premier Heather Stephenson and two of her cabinet ministers have been fined thousands each for pushing for a sand mining project after losing the last provincial election. MLAs from all parties voted unanimously yesterday to accept recommendations of an ethics commissioner report that found the three had violated conflict of interest rules. People in Brandon will soon have to head to the city's east side to drop off extra recycling. The city is closing all its community recycling depots. It says it's to help curb issues like illegal dumping and contamination. There are some, though, who fear it'll have the opposite effect. I'll be back with more Manitoba news at 7:30.
Thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
Weather-wise, clear and 6 in Winnipeg. It's going to be windy today, winds south 30 to 50 and the high 15 degrees. Lots of sunshine, though. Should be a pretty nice fall day. We have a couple traffic issues. Eastbound Cumberland closed at Sherbrooke. Emergency crews on site last we checked and heard. Tim also called southbound Archibald, far left turn lane, southbound Archibald at Marion, the far left turn lane. Traffic standard down there, that could still be blocking your way or could be clear. So call and update us, please, 788-3093. In the next hour of the show, yesterday we started a conversation about the increase in minimum wage last week, but also learning about professions where you might be surprised people make minimum. For example, people who offer different supports for foster children in foster care. Today we're going to talk to the Manitoba Advocate for Children and Youth about low pay for staff who support kids in care and why that's a concern. Also in the next hour of the program, it was supposed to be a simple task. Get Dolly Parton to sign a bowl for a Harvest Manitoba fundraiser. But it was a little more complicated than that. We've got a story from a Harvest CEO about the Dolly Bowl. And then at 10 to 8, personal attacks and a whole bunch of heckling. It's commonplace during question period, but is all the fighting a disservice to Manitobans? What's the tipping point of that? You might know last week we had the Premier and the Leader of the Opposition on. They were answering questions about their decorum. We'll have that conversation coming up in the next hour of the show. I'm Marcy Marcusa. You're on 89.3 FM. This is CBC.
On the Current.
From a fishing heritage on a rugged coast to a world-class tourism destination.
Zita Cobb launched an ultra-luxury hotel in her home community of Fogo Island. She used the project to build the jobs for the people who were already living there. Business leader Zita Cobb on how to scale up local economies coming up on The Current.
The Current with Matt Galloway. This morning at 8:37, 9:07 in Newfoundland. And on the CBC Listen app.
Good morning. I'm Marcia Young. A source with knowledge of yesterday's talks in the Oval Office says Mark Carney is expressing renewed interest in the Keystone XL pipeline. The project has been out of favor for years, but Donald Trump is in support, and the Prime Minister is hoping this could lead to tariff relief for Canada's steel and aluminum industries. Janice McGregor is in our Parliamentary Bureau, and Janice, it's been a while since anyone talked about the Keystone XL pipeline. Remind us what that is.
Marcia, remember this pipeline was a hot political debate like a decade ago. TransCanada, which is now TC Energy, it had a proposal to send Alberta oil south, first to U.S. refineries, but then onwards, it hoped, to world markets. This was stopped by Barack Obama's administration amid intense pressure from environmentalists. During his first presidency, Donald Trump revived it. But then when Joe Biden was elected, he stopped it again. And along the way, the Alberta government lost an awful lot of money in its equity stake in a bid to recover the company's losses through a legal proceeding under the previous NAFTA agreement. That also failed. But Donald Trump has always liked this pipeline idea. And a source with direct knowledge of the president's conversation with Mark Carney yesterday says the prime minister raised the idea of reviving this pipeline proposal as some part of a bigger cooperative deal between Canada and the U.S. But it's unclear how the trade-offs around this partnership that Carney's pitching would really work. The company has moved on. And as far as we know, this isn't a pipeline that a proponent has put in front of, for example, the new Federal Major Projects Office to prioritize.
So why would Carney bring up this pipeline so long after it was written off?
Well, Alberta wants another pipeline, says it needs one. Danielle Smith making this clear once again during her trip to lobby Ottawa this week.
If we had seen the 3 pipeline projects built that had been proposed over the years, we would have another 2.5 million barrels a day of production.
Meanwhile, BC Premier David Eby was firing off another round in his war of words with Alberta's Premier yesterday for continuing to suggest the federal government can just overrule the objectors on the West Coast.
If we want to say we're going to get rid of that tanker ban and we're going to go after your way of life, let's at least make sure that the conversation is about a real project.
The politics around any new pipeline are rough, but perhaps the Prime Minister is hoping that a new pipeline going south instead of west could be a less controversial alternative.
All right. Thank you, Janice.
You're welcome.
The CBC's Janice McGregor in Ottawa. Some high-profile figures are joining the Gaza peace talks in Egypt. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff will be leading the U.S. delegation. He'll be joined by Donald Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner. Israel and Hamas are continuing indirect negotiations on a plan put forward by the U.S. president. The CBC's Crystal Gomansing has more from Jerusalem.
I think the world have some forgot what Israel and what I've been through.
Hours after Yotan Shamriz, a survivor of October 7th, spoke at a memorial in Tel Aviv, more delegates are set to join peace talks in Egypt. Shamriz's brother, Alon, is one of the 48 hostages mediators are working to repatriate as a part of a 20-point agreement between Israel and Hamas.
We're in very serious negotiations.
U.S. President Donald Trump confirmed the arrival of American delegates in Sharm el-Sheikh yesterday and expressed optimism about a deal.
I think there's a possibility that we could have peace in the Middle East, even beyond the Gaza situation.
In an effort to nudge talks along, the president's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, is joining a team of mediators. The prime minister of Qatar and the head of Turkey's intelligence agency will also take part. Both of those nations have leverage as they could bar or expel Hamas. Egyptian officials have said talks are currently focused on initial steps in the plan: ending the war, bringing aid into Gaza, returning the hostages, and the release of Palestinian prisoners. Global leaders are encouraging all parties to seize the opportunity for peace. Crystal Gomansing, CBC News, Jerusalem.
National Guard troops are now just outside Chicago and preparing to deploy. The Guard members have been pulled in from Texas. It's part of the U.S. president's push to, as he says, crush crime in the city. The state and the city are suing to block the deployment. Brandon Johnson is Chicago's mayor, and he says it is unnecessary and unconstitutional.
The federal government is out of control. This is one of the most dangerous times in our nation's history. An unhinged, double-minded, simple-minded man who is not being held accountable.
A federal judge in Illinois has given the Trump administration until tonight to respond to the lawsuit. The suit is asking to block the mobilization of any National Guard troops in the state. Pressure is mounting on France's president to end the political upheaval plaguing his country. Emmanuel Macron's third prime minister since December may step down today, and it could throw France deeper into a political crisis that may prompt snap elections. Anna Cunningham reports.
The outgoing French Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu launching a last-minute effort to quell France's political crisis. He resigned Monday, but remains in his post until tonight, trying to shore up cross-party support for his collapsed government. This evening, I will go to the Élysée Palace, says Lecornu, to present the president the solutions that are on the table, if we manage to find any, he says. Optimistic at best, this is now the worst political crisis since the foundation of France's Fifth Republic in 1958. A government without a majority, unable to pass its budget. France is the European Union's second biggest economy. The markets are watching cautiously. Pressure is weighing on the French President Emmanuel Macron, who has been in post for 8 years. Calls for his resignation or snap presidential elections being urged by one of his own, his former First Prime Minister Édouard Philippe, saying he should go to the country once a budget for next year is adopted. But outgoing Prime Minister Lecornu is hinting that support to pass a budget would mean elections are not necessary. He says consensus is emerging, which makes the possibilities of a dissolution more remote. The clock is ticking for Macron's government to make this work, as the far-right party of Marine Le Pen, flying high in the polls, watches on. Anna Cunningham, CBC News, London.
A dispute between Via Rail and Canadian National is getting expensive. Via trains run on tracks owned by CN. CN imposed speed limits at crossings last year, and now that's caused some train delays. Via has had to reimburse passengers millions of dollars worth of travel credits. Gabrielle Lemarquand-Perrault has the story.
Via Rail has been paying the price for its dispute with CN since the fall of 2024. CBC has learned that the conflict related to CN's decision to impose speed limits at railroad crossings has cost nearly $31 million in travel credits in 9 months. Travel credits of up to 100% of the price paid are offered to passengers whenever a train is more than an hour late on the Quebec-Windsor corridor, the busiest segment.
$31 million is a significant amount.
Jacques Roy is a retired professor specializing in transportation and logistic management.
It adds to the frustration of Via Rail users who are facing unreliable scheduled service.
But Via Rail sees light at the end of the tunnel. For the past few weeks, trains have been able to run at a constant, albeit reduced, speed over longer segments without having to confirm the automatic activation of level crossings. Federal Transport Minister Stephen McKinnon says Via Rail's performance is unacceptable.
Well, this is obviously suboptimal, and we're going to need to focus very, very squarely on improving those results.
Both Via Rail and CN insist they will not compromise on safety, but the two cannot agree on the extent of the problem at level crossings and the measures that should be put in place to protect all passengers. Gabrielle Lemarquand-Perrault, CBC News, Ottawa.
And finally this morning, the price of gold has hit another high. It's up another $50 in overseas markets this morning. That's after closing above 4,000 US for the first time ever yesterday. Gold is up 50% this year. Some investors uncertain about the U.S. economy are turning to gold. U.S. Treasury bonds have been losing to gold as investment for central banks around the world. After the rush has gone, I hope you find a little more. That is the latest national and international news from World Report. I'm Marcia Young. Only 2 years ago, the man with the suit and the face, who knew that he was there on the case. Now he's in love with you.
And everyone, I'm Marcy Marcusa. This is Information Radio. We're live in downtown Winnipeg in our CBC studios, and it's going to be sunny today. Right now it's clear and it's 6 degrees. Thanks for being here. This hour on CBC, coming up at 10 to 8 this morning. Over the last week, both the NDP and the Tories have done their fair share of heckling across the aisle. But is all of the fighting doing Manitobans a disservice, or is it normal question period behavior? We heard the Speaker asking MLAs in this province to be more respectful. We're going to talk about this coming up in the next hour of the show. Also, big political news yesterday. We'll hear in the news from Heather Wells in a moment about fines being faced now by a former premier of this province. So we'll have those stories both covered. Also this hour, minimum wage went up to $16 an hour last week, but we yesterday were looking at the kind of work that some workers do for minimum wage. We'll continue that this morning with some who say there's certain sectors where employees should be paid more. And we're going to hear why. Right now, let's go to Heather Wells for more news and headlines. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, some people in Wolseley are shaken up, literally, about a new bus route running down their street. Changes to the Winnipeg transit system resulted in more than 100 buses running up and down Arlington between Portage and Wolseley. Rebecca Forgan lives on Arlington and says the new route is causing problems at all times of day, even rattling people's homes. MLAs voted unanimously to impose fines against former Premier Heather Stephenson and 2 of her cabinet ministers. An Ethics Commissioner report found the 3 violated conflict of interest rules. Premier Wab Kinew thinks Stephenson's fine should have been even higher. We'll hear more in our next local news coming up at 7:30.
All right, thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
To the weather now with Abby Adiemi.
Good morning, Marcy. We're looking at 3 to 6 degrees in the city, depending on where you are across the other parts of the regions. We're seeing a sunny start, mild morning air will return, and the south will be warming up to 20 degrees. For Winnipeg today, it's going to be mainly clear. The sunshine will stick around most of the day. We'll see some winds from the south. Temperatures just warm up to 15 degrees later, and then tomorrow we'll see 19 and more sunshine. Across board, we're seeing 6 degrees up north and the power Flin Flon, and we're seeing 3 degrees in Thompson at this time. Churchill is at -4.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Let's get into what's happening in traffic this morning. Corey.
Yeah, a couple things to keep an eye out for. Southbound Archibald at Marion, there's a traffic standard knockdown, and that is blocking the far left median lane, and that's that kind of left turning lane there. So you have to keep it right to get around there. There are crews on scene working to repair that. Looks like the lights are still working, but it's just you can't really get through that one far left lane. As well, got a few calls about eastbound Cumberland at Sherbrooke is closed. You can't get down Cumberland once you hit Sherbrooke. There are emergency vehicles on scene. We heard from Jeff and Jamie about that. Not sure exactly what is going on there, but I know our news desk is looking into that. If you see anything else, though, going on out there, give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number to call, 204-788-3093.
Well, this morning, about the rising minimum wage in Manitoba. Yesterday, we heard from Dakota Barker. Now, she's a frontline worker. She works with an organization that supports young women and kids in CFS care, in foster care. She's paid $16.50, just above minimum wage. And for that wage, I asked Dakota to tell us about some of the responsibilities that she takes on the job.
There's been... I find a big part of the job that I find to be kind of grueling is the logging, which is also very important. We log every hour what the girls or like the resident in question, they all have their own little like binders and stuff. And they're all confidential. So we'll write down like what they did or like what they ate or like what they talked about. Things that like other people who are coming into work like might want to know about this girl, or if she's like at risk of something, for example.
That's a serious responsibility. So
there's that. And at night, if they don't come back by curfew, then we have to call Anchor or the All Nations Children's Response, I believe it's called. But it's like a network that works to make sure that like Indigenous children, especially ones in care or like who have a record of being in care, get home safe.
So that was my discussion with Dakota Barker about her job. Now, as you heard, there is a range in pay for frontline workers in our province. The baseline wage, for example, for support workers in the disability sector is above minimum wage. As of 2023, it's now $19 an hour. But some advocates say that when you consider the work being done and the needs in our province, that wage is still not enough. Sherry Gott is one of those people. She's the Manitoba Advocate for Children and Youth, and she joins us via Zoom. Good morning.
Good morning.
So what's your perspective on, frontline workers who work with children in care and have, the types of responsibilities Dakota was outlining with her work, saying that they're making essentially the minimum?
I think it is concerning that, it speaks to the value of children in the system. I think one of the things that we need to do is take better care of our children and ensure that appropriate staff and training is provided, a reasonable wage is provided, especially for those children that are most vulnerable in our society.
What do you hear from workers in the child welfare sector about turnover rate? Because when wages aren't, at a rate maybe that is higher, sometimes that can be a challenge, right? That turnover.
Yes, there is retention issues, and it creates a lot of instability in the system especially for those children that are in care. They have to continue to have develop ongoing relationships. When it impacts their well-being and emotional well-being, particularly, especially when they have a support worker that they work with really well, and all of a sudden they're gone. So they have to redevelop those relationships.
How common is that? I know we've done individual stories with different kids who've been through care and people who've been in the system, and they've expressed that it's quite common to go through a number of workers. Is it unusual that a worker would stay with somebody for their whole time, like for 10 years or something?
It is because there is a high turnover rate in the system. That's from social workers right to support workers. There's retention issues. Retention rate issues are not there, and I think that part of that is, the wage factor. And I think, and I'm not trying to, say that we need to pay higher wages for people, but I think, we need to really look at the kind of support and services we're providing to our children.
Do you not think we need to provide higher wages? I'm just curious whether or not people would be leaving for the, potentially leaving the system and the work that they do to sort of say, this isn't worth this for me, and maybe seeking a higher wage.
I think it's important to provide proper compensation and benefits to those workers. Certainly, I'm not saying that they shouldn't have a higher wage, but I think, it's not for me to say who deserves a higher rate of pay. I think one of the things in the system is that each organization is different. They pay according to their funding that they get for the children in care. The funding changed for each agency. They went to block funding, and that impacted a lot of services as far as that's what I've been hearing from the system, and it's still ongoing. The province has provided funding for agencies to manage their own respite and stuff like that, but I think it needs to be relooked at again and reassessed.
What do the low wages say about how our society views and values the work being done by support workers overall?
I think it is critical to look at it, especially when we're looking after the most vulnerable children in society, is children that are being removed from their own families. It needs to be looked at definitely by the government.
Sherry Gott, thank you for your time on our series. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Sherry Gott is the Manitoba Advocate for Children and Youth. This week, we've been looking at some of the jobs where the wages are at minimum or just above minimum. And we started looking at the area of different support workers in the province because there have been recent changes as well. There was recently an increase in the amount of wage paid to, for example, disability support workers. If you want to read about our series of stories, you can always go online to cbc.ca/Manitoba, or you can find past episodes of our show as well on your CBC Listen app.
There are many people who bring success, innovation, accomplishment, and charity to our community. We'd like you to help us meet some of the best. CBC Future 40 will honor 10 Manitobans under 40 making a difference. Help us discover the inspiring people in our province by nominating a shining star in your community today. For details, visit cbc.ca/future40mb.
7:21 is the time right now on 89.3 FM, 990 AM on the app and YouTube. And in Winnipeg, we have a nice clear sky. It's actually really pretty outside. It's almost like a purpley lavender this morning as the sun's coming up. Looks like it's going to be a lovely fall day. Windy though, sunny though, and 15 as Abby's been mentioning. Well, in a moment, we have morning sports. We'll talk more about the Jays' loss last night and other sports developing as well. Of course, the Jets this week. But right now, some music from Winnipeg-based Prairie Line. They put together a traditional fiddle with 90s new age country. How's that for a mix? Here's their tune, Long Way to Go, on CBC 89.3 FM.
Been punching my time since 8 a.m. on that Monday, and now I'm watching that clock tick-tock away like it should. Gonna peel out, no doubt, get gone, set fire to the weekend. Just watching that sun go down, only one place in mind. It's a long way to go when you're living for the weekend. The damn week was so slow, so hell, we're burning it down. And if you're ready for it, baby,
Bay's Prairie Line. They scored multiple Manitoba Country Music Award nominations. They also say they're going to have some new singles out this fall. That one's a long way to go. Their next show won't have you driving a very long way because they're playing Portage la Prairie if you're coming from Winnipeg, that is. So that's October 11th coming up soon at the MMP building in Portage la Prairie. Well, still ahead on Information Radio. The gloves are off.
You know, the member opposite is trying to give lessons on money when he couldn't even run a lemonade stand.
That's right.
And I mean, literally, all his lemonade stands are closed.
Manitobans saw it right there. I'm asking questions about the economy and this $4 billion deficit. What does this premier do? Personal attacks. That's all he has. Calling Manitobans goofballs and launching personal attacks.
Over the last week, both the NDP and Tories have done their fair share of heckling across the aisle. But is all of the fighting doing Manitobans a disservice? We actually are going to have that conversation with an expert in the next half hour of the program, so stay tuned. That's coming up just before 8 o'clock. Right now, it is exactly 7:25 a.m., and Scott Regehr joins us as he does every morning at this time. Hello.
Good morning.
Let's talk about sports. I'm a bit tired. I stayed up with that epic
You and
game.
I both.
It was going so smoothly for the Blue Jays last night until it wasn't.
That's right. Toronto was up 5 runs, Marcy, headed for a sweep of the Yankees in their first trip to the AL Championship Series in a decade. And then Aaron Judge decided not on my watch. The Yankees superstar hit a 3-run home run that completely changed the tide. It actually came on a pretty nice pitch. Toronto reliever Louis Varland threw it inside on Judge at 100 miles an hour. The worst case scenario with a pitch like that is the batter might turn quickly on it and yank it foul, but because it's Aaron Judge, he yanked it over the left field fence instead. The starter for the Jays last night was Shane Bieber, and he shared his thoughts.
You know, Aaron, the reigning MVP, put a great swing on a tough fastball. Maybe we catch a lucky break there and it's 2 feet to the left, and who knows what happens after that. But, you know, baseball's baseball, and would have been great to sweep, but don't think many people expected that. So I'm very excited to see how we bounce back tomorrow. I think that's what we've done all year. That's what we've done, especially down the stretch. I don't see why tomorrow's going to be any different.
Tomorrow, of course, is today, and Toronto, Marcy, is going to rely upon its bullpen to end the series. In fact, since he pitched just 1 inning last night, it's going to be Louis Varland again. He's going to get the start. I would not be disappointed if he just walked Aaron Judge all night long. Focus on the rest of the Yankees. Well, just stay away from him. Cam Schlittler is going to get the nod for New York. The rookie who, like the Jays' Trey Savage, Marcy, has been pitching like a veteran ace. And a little earlier start time tonight, 6:08 Central. I'll take it.
There is going to be competition for sports fans' attention tonight, though, because most of Canada's NHL teams are going to begin the season.
Yeah, 4 of the 7 from this country. Toronto hosts the Habs. Later on, the Flames visit Edmonton. The Jets will start their campaign tomorrow at home to Dallas. And when they do that, they'll be without some key players. Captain Adam Lowry, he's still recovering from off-season surgery. Winger Cole Perfetti and defenseman Dylan Sandberg both suffered injuries during the preseason. Head coach Scott Arniel says that last year the team proved they could withstand injuries like these.
We learned from it last year. We needed the depth through the regular season, and we needed the depth in the playoffs. You don't do what we did through the season if you don't have it, and I think we're even deeper this year. This is a tough year. This Olympic year is a tough year, and I think you're seeing it around the league right now. There's some big injuries on a lot of teams, and there's a lot of guys that are on the IR, so I don't think it's going to get any easier.
Zach Hyman in Edmonton, Jonathan Huberdeau in Calgary, Barkov in Florida. The list goes on when it comes to big injuries to key players. On more positive Jets news, though, there were multiple reports yesterday, Marcy, that Kyle Connor and the team are headed towards a contract extension, with the goal being to sign before the puck drops tomorrow. So we'll have to wait and see on that. That'd be great.
Let's finish with tennis, where the next Australian Open will come with a twist.
Yeah, this is super interesting. When things get underway in Melbourne in January, amateur players are going to have a chance to win $1 million when they face tennis's top pros like Carlos Alcaraz. So here's how it's going to work. An amateur and a pro, I'm not making this up, are going to play rock, paper, scissors to determine who serves and receives. Then they'll play just 1 point, and whoever wins that point moves on while the other is eliminated. Here's tournament organizer Craig Tiley.
We want to give a million reasons for our community to pick up a tennis racket and give it a go. And you will see amateurs show up with a packed Rod Laver Arena, potentially in the first round drawing Carlos Alcaraz or the other players we'll announce over the course of the next coming weeks, because they get an opportunity to make $1 million too. So if you want to see pressure when there's that much at stake, that could lose an amateur.
The Aussie Open actually tested this idea at last year's tournament for far less prize money and with only one top 10 player committed to it. Andrei Rublev, who was eliminated in the quarterfinals when he put his one and only serve allowed into the net. Australians are being asked to enter one-point slam events at their local tennis clubs. The winners of the grassroots tournaments will then have their names put in a draw with one amateur player from every state and territory in that country selected to take part in the grand finale in Melbourne. What a way to grow interest in the sport. I'm wondering if Tennis Canada might be watching this.
It's so interesting. I really wonder, though, what the pros think of it, right? Like, you work that hard to get somewhere, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they might love it too, because as you said, what a way to grow interest in the sport.
I mean, I hear exactly what you're saying, but Carlos Alcaraz, he could win 6 points total and $1 million with those 6 points by beating, amateurs. So, yeah, we'll see. All
right, Scott, thank you.
You bet.
Let's get into your CBC Winnipeg news.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg at 7:36 degrees. It's going to be beautiful, sunny, a little bit on the windy side. We warm up to 15 this afternoon. Manitoba's premier says he takes issue with a judge's decision to grant bail to a man charged in connection with a deadly crash last year. Premier Rob Canoe says that decision could lead to the public losing faith in the justice system. This week, a 26-year-old Ontario truck driver who was charged in connection to the death of a Manitoba woman and her daughter was granted bail despite having left the country. The Crown Attorney argued in court releasing the suspect could impact the public's faith in the justice system. In question period, Premier Rob Canoe says he agrees with the Crown.
I happen to agree with that. In this particular instance, I think we have to, with all respect that we have for the justice system, encourage our judges and justices of the peace to reflect on the role that their decisions will have when they are learned of by the public.
Canoe says he doesn't know the details behind the judge's decision to grant bail, but says these kinds of decisions contribute to public cynicism. Some people in Wolseley are shaken up, literally, about a new bus route running down their street. Changes to the Winnipeg transit system resulted in more than 100 buses running up and down Arlington between Portage and Wolseley. Rebecca Forgan lives on Arlington and says the new route is causing problems.
Early in the morning, late at night, and in the middle of the day, it is rattling people's homes. People with small children are worried. Kids play on their front yards in Wolseley, and it's disturbing, and there's hairline cracks in some people's homes already. Our ask is that they lower the speed limit officially to 30 kilometers an hour.
Forgan says transit put a reduced speed mandate in place along the street, but some drivers aren't complying. The Public Works Committee has passed a motion to study setting the speed limit at 30 kilometers an hour. Former Manitoba Premier Heather Stefanson and two of her cabinet ministers have been fined thousands of dollars each for pushing for a sand mining project after losing the last election.
All those in the House in favor, please rise.
MLAs from all parties voting unanimously to accept recommendations of an Ethics Commissioner report. It found Stefanson, former Deputy Premier Cliff Cullen, and former Economic Development Minister Jeff Wharton violated conflict of interest rules. Stefanson must now pay $18,000 for her post-election push to approve the CO Silica sand mining proposal. Cullen was fined $12,000, while Jeff Wharton, who is still a sitting MLA, must pay $10,000. Current PC leader Abi Khan would not say what he thinks of their actions.
What they did is clearly laid out in the report, and we accept the finding of the report. I think that the commissioner found that there was wrongdoing done by the members listed, and there's a fine. So I accept that.
Premier Rob Canoe says he believes Stefanson's fine should have been higher. CBC News has learned Prime Minister Mark Carney raised the Keystone XL pipeline in his meeting yesterday with U.S. President Donald Trump. Keystone XL would move oil from northern Alberta to the American Midwest, but both the Obama and Biden administrations kept that project from moving forward. Trump has said in the past he wants to revive Keystone. It's possible Carney's prepared to use it as leverage in his tariff talks with the White House. You can hear the latest national and international news coming up on World Report at 8. A warning today from Winnipeg transit officials for riders not to use artificial intelligence apps like ChatGPT to plan their bus trips. Bjorn Radstrom, Transit's manager of service development, says some people, particularly students, use those apps, but the apps, he says, produce wildly inaccurate directions, something he discovered when he tried them for himself.
It was terrible. It was a disaster. It was giving completely wrong information. It was telling you to take routes that haven't existed for years. It was telling you to take routes that have never existed, or telling everybody to crowd onto the blue line. So these AI engines are not designed for this type of trip planning.
Radstrom worries misinformation may be adding to overcrowding on the Blue Line, which already sees more pass-ups than any other corridor. Transit plans to warn schools and to post public messages urging riders to stick to official sources like Navigo or the Winnipeg Transit app. People in Brandon will soon have to head to the city's east side to drop off extra recycling. The city is closing all its community recycling depots. It says it's to help curb issues like illegal dumping and contamination. Curtis Sharanowski lives in Brandon and worries closures will have the opposite effect.
It's a little concerning, I think. I understand that people are illegally dumping, and that isn't a good thing. But at the same time, just removing them is not the answer. I would like to see there be garbage receptacles here where people could put garbage and then put recycling into the correct bins.
Brandon says the depots will be phased out over the next month and a half. Nobel Week continues with the prize for chemistry being awarded today.
Susumu Kitagawa, Kyoto University, Japan. Richard Robson, University of Melbourne, Australia. And Omar Yagi, University of California at Berkeley, USA, for the development of metal organic frameworks.
Nobel Committee honoring 3 scientists for their work separating toxic molecules from wastewater. The prize for literature gets handed out tomorrow. The Peace Prize will be awarded Friday. You can find more news updated throughout the day at cbc.ca/Manitoba.
All right. Thank you, Heather. Let's get
you.
into the regional forecast with Abby and have a look at what's coming for the day. Actually, why don't we go to traffic first? I know we've got our weather maps up, but Corey's in studio and he's going to let us know what's up out there.
Sure. So southbound Archibald at Marion, traffic standard has been knocked down and it's blocking the median lane on southbound Archibald there. So it's tough to turn left. There are crews on scene, but those lights are flashing red. So you want to treat that as a 4-way stop. As well, got a couple other calls. Jeff and Jamie called earlier to say eastbound Cumberland at Sherbrooke closed right now. There are emergency crews on scene. You can't get past Sherbrooke there if you're going eastbound on Cumberland. As well, Louise called just to remind folks, northbound, when you're going onto Stafford from northbound Pembina, as soon as you get onto Stafford, it's very, very slow right now. It's down to 1 lane due to construction. So you may want to avoid that. Maybe take another route to get where you need to go. So just very, very slow if you're heading on Stafford coming from northbound Pembina. If you see anything else though going on, give me a call on the CBC commuter line. That number, 204-788-3093.
And now let's go over to Abby Adiyemi and our forecast.
Sunny and mild air returns across board. Today, the southern part of the province will be warming up close to 20, while the northern areas will see low mid-teens later today. Winnipeg, we are at 6 degrees. The Pembina Valley is at 4. Brandon is at 1. Dauphin is at 11. Gimli is at around 5 degrees at this time. The powerful influence, we're looking at temperatures around 7 degrees. Thompson is at 3. Churchill is at -3 this morning. Most of the regions warming up close to 20 degrees. The north will see temperatures close to 16 degrees today.
Well, up next on the show.
My coat of many colors that my mama made for me. Made only from rags, but I wore it so proudly. Although we had no money, I was rich as I could be. In my coat of many colors my mama made for me.
You have likely heard that song and the story behind it. Dolly Parton, Coat of Many Colors. It's a true story. She needed a coat one winter. Her mom did sew one out of fabric scraps, so she would be proud of her coat. Her mom then told her the story, the Bible story, about Joseph and his coat of many colors. So we're playing it this morning because Dolly Parton is giving back to those now that may have need. Harvest Manitoba asked a whole bunch of celebrities and folks to sign bowls, locally made bowls, for their Empty Bowls fundraiser. Now, that's not unusual, but they asked Dolly, expecting a simple signature. But the celebrity took special interest in decorating their own bowl and really got into it. You're going to hear why in a moment. In studio with us, Harvest Manitoba CEO Vince Barletta. Good morning, Vince.
Good morning, Marcy.
So what happened when you shipped a bowl to Dolly Parton?
Well, we had a few troubles along the way. The first bowl made it there damaged. Dolly was so gracious, and as you know, Marcy, she supports a lot of causes all over North America, particularly poverty issues. The second bowl also had some mishaps, but the third time was the charm, and we got that bowl not only signed by Dolly, but feathers, sequins, items from her stage-worn costumes are all over this bowl. If you go to our website, harvestmanitoba.ca, you're going to see it in all the other bowls. A real unique, one-of-a-kind piece made with care.
We're looking at it if folks are watching our CBC stream this morning on YouTube as well. I mean, you're not kidding. It's all pure white. I'm seeing the jewels and the feathers as described, but that's amazing. They came from costumes.
It came from the stage-worn costumes by Dolly, and again, as you mentioned with that song, came up with a pretty hard scrabble life herself. And so when it comes to issues like food banks, poverty issues, literacy, kids issues, she's always there to help. And we're just so pleased she got on board this year with Harvest.
Now, she could have said, oh, the bowl broke first time around, no big deal. How did you guys even know that happened?
Well, we have some pretty well-connected people in this city here, Marcy, as you know, and we benefit from that at Harvest, people that are able to connect us with movie stars out in Hollywood, people that are able to connect with people otherwise in the entertainment industry and the sports industry. So we have our tentacles out there, so to speak, Marcy, and we get connected with all these different camps and people that have built some pretty good relationships, including with Dolly Parton over the years, really help us out.
It's surprising, though, because she could have just said, it broke, like, too bad. It's unfortunate, but she kind of really obviously wanted to do this, cared about it.
She wanted to do it. She wanted to support Harvest Manitoba, and I think part of that is encouraging other people to support as well. And, with our upcoming Empty Bowls Celebrity Auction, Marcy, we've got 30 celebrity bowls, again, folks from across the entertainment world and celebrity world, and a whole bunch of other prizes. And the reality is, you don't even need to be at our event next week to bid on them. You can bid on them online starting yesterday, actually.
So some of the celebrities, I was looking online, Shania Twain, Katy Perry, John Travolta, right? What goes into getting the bowls signed? I mean, have you ever had anything like this where former costume pieces would have been affixed to the bowl? This is amazing.
The Dolly Parton one, I gotta say, is pretty unique in terms of how it's been designed by Dolly and put together. But we've been doing this event off and on now for 20 plus years, and so we've had some pretty unique bowls over the years. You mentioned some of the ones this year: John Travolta, Katy Perry, Shania Twain, Jelly Roll, Margaret Atwood, William Shatner. A whole bunch of sports memorabilia as well. But we've had some interesting ones going back many years as well. The Rolling Stones. Back when maybe he was less popular in this country than he is today, we had Donald Trump sign a bowl many years ago.
Different times.
Different times. That was during the Apprentice days. And so, a lot of people have gotten behind this over the years, and we take advantage as well of movie stars coming to Winnipeg to shoot films here in this city. We get them there, concert dates at True North, and so on.
So where do you keep them all? Because then you get all of these in, and you need to have them somewhere safe, and especially the Dolly Bowl,
Well, Marcy, we keep them at a very safe, secure location. I'm not sure if I want to divulge the exact location here on CBC Information Radio, but I will say they are being kept safe, especially after the incident we had with the Dolly Bowl, and we're going to keep them safe right through the Empty Bowls event next week in the auction.
Now, you alluded to this bowl, being a journey, having a journey. So first of all, one of them broke when you sent it. But then is it also right that this almost got lost on the way back to you?
Almost got lost on the way back to us as well. Got left somewhere along the line, not with us, but somewhere along the line, got left on the roof of a car, if you can imagine.
no.
You know, you ever leave your cup of coffee on the roof of the car?
Yeah, you drive away.
And so it was found by a very good Samaritan who ended up getting things back on track for us. And so a lot of ups and downs, Marcy, as sometimes these things go. So now that we have the bowl and it's secure and it's in good shape, I don't even want to touch it. I don't want to touch it until it's going to go out to whoever buys it with our celebrity auction.
Just for our YouTube viewers, I think we also have a picture of Dolly in one of the costumes that some of the bejewels would have been taken from. We may have that to put up. So next week, you mentioned this, Vince, the Empty Bowls fundraiser. They'll be auctioned off, or later this month, rather. What do you want people to know about the event and why it's important?
Well, it's important because it supports the work of Harvest Manitoba, and there's 130 plus packages available to be bid on. You can bid on them online now. All of those prize packages, including the bowls, fully donated to Harvest. So every dollar that we raise from the auction supports Harvest, stays right here in Manitoba to support our work in communities all over the province.
Will you put a reserve bid on any of these bowls, especially given that this one's extra special?
There are some minimum bids. I believe the Dolly Parton Bowl, the minimum bid is $2,000, I believe, on the Dolly Parton Bowl, and different bowls and different prize packages have different reserve bids. But we just opened the bidding yesterday, and we've already got a lot of bids on a lot of packages. And people have until October 18th, 10 p.m., to go online. HarvestManitoba.ca will get you to our auction site and bid away.
Thank you, Vince.
Thank you, Marcy.
Vince Barletta, President and CEO of Harvest Manitoba.
Back through the years, I go wandering once again. Back to the seasons of my youth. I recall a box of rags that someone gave us, and how my mama put the rags to use. There were rags of many colors, but every piece was small, and I didn't have a coat, and it was away down in the fall. Mama sewed the rags together, so in every piece with love she made my coat of many colors that I was so proud of. As she sewed, she told a story from the Bible she had read about a coat of many colors Joseph wore, and then she said, perhaps this coat will bring you good luck and happiness. And I just couldn't wait to wear it, and Mama blessed it with a kiss. My coat of many colors that my mama made for me, made only from rags, but I wore it so proudly. Although we had no money, well, I was rich as I could be in my coat of many colors my mama made for me.
Dolly Parton, coat of many colors, harvest.ca, harvestmb.ca. If you want to see more of the bowls and read more about that fundraiser. Right now it is 13 minutes to 8 o'clock.
If it happened today, find out today. That's the power of having the news in your hand. Get late-breaking news from reporters across the country, straight to your mobile device. Customize your experience with news from your region and what matters to you. Whether it's big headlines, detailed articles, live events, or on-demand video, CBC News has got you covered. Connect to the world. Download the free CBC News app or visit cbcnews.ca.
Coming up on the show after 8 o'clock, a Halloween attraction that promised to give to give visitors 500,000 square feet of terror is now handing out refunds instead. We're going to talk to the organizer of Fear Winnipeg about why they had to cancel their event this year and why they want the permitting process at the City of Winnipeg to change. So stay tuned for that. That's after 8. Right now, though, they may have been warned, but it doesn't seem to be stopping them. It's been a week since MLAs returned to the Manitoba legislature for the fall sitting. But before they could get to work, the Speaker of the House, Tom Lindsay, last week had a reminder for them. Debate all you want, but don't forget your manners.
Manitoba speakers have been sharing their concerns about decorum for the last 150 years. This is not a new problem. But it is a problem that I believe has gotten considerably worse in the last 10 years, and worse still over the last 2. Our spring session did not end well. Members were displaying the worst decorum I have seen in this chamber. I've always said that heckling itself is not the problem, if it is done with some respect and restraint. However, hollering angry insults and name-calling across the chamber definitely is a problem. Members can make their points in debate. You do not need to shout over someone who has the floor to make your point.
Despite that reminder, the NDP and Tories continue to butt heads. Earlier this week, things quickly became personal during a debate about the budget. This is Premier Wap Kinew addressing opposition leader, Tory leader Obby Khan, who used to own a business called Green Carrot Juice.
You know, the member opposite is trying to give lessons on money when he couldn't even run a lemonade stand.
That's right.
And I mean, literally, all his lemonade stands are closed.
Yes.
The one in Osborne Village is closed.
That's
the one
right.
at the airport is closed. The other one, they actually put a sign up in the window and said, evicted for non-payment of rent.
Wow.
When it comes to this side of the house, we got the best finance minister in the country. I mean, what's going on here? The only thing that Manitobans ought to know about what's going on in the House here today is why are they blocking the ethics report? Why don't they own up to the fact that they blocked the machete bill for an entire month in the spring? Tons of stuff to
Members,
discuss.
time has expired. The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition on a final supplementary question.
Manitobans saw it right there. I'm asking questions about the economy and this $4 billion deficit. What does this premier do? Personal attacks. That's all he has. Calling Manitobans goofballs and launching personal attacks.
We are going to talk about this with Duff Conacher next on the show, co-founder of the advocacy group Democracy Watch, and he joins us now on Zoom. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Now, we had a lot of clips we could have chosen. We also have clips where, the premier we heard there making his comments. We also do have clips and examples of those on the other side of the aisle. What are you thinking as you're listening to listen to that exchange and exchanges like this from elected officials?
Well, decorum is a vague word. I wouldn't actually say what the premier was talking about. It was a personal attack. It doesn't meet the rules of logic because personal attacks are actually a violation of logical argument principles. If they're irrelevant, I mean, it's fine to bring up an example from somebody in terms of their behavior that contradicts what they're talking about or their current actions. And even in that, with that situation, he was talking about finances and he was raising the example of the MLA from the opposition party running a business. So it was in some ways relevant, but not really relevant to public finances questions. When you're talking about shouting someone down, that's a more clear example. The rules are there in legislatures to allow debate. So when someone's speaking, no one else is supposed to be speaking. Obviously, a little bit of heckling, but if you drown someone out, you're just wasting the public's time and money because the speaker will usually stop and stand up and say order, and then the person has to say what they said again. So it's just a waste of the legislature's time if you're drowning someone out. And so, it's a bit of, there are some clear examples. You can't lie. You can't shout someone down. But other than that, it's a pretty vague standard, and one of the big problems is how it's currently enforced because speakers are partisan.
How could that be changed if that is one of the current problems?
Yeah, and it's a problem because the speaker comes from one party or another, usually the ruling party, and that allows the opposition parties, the other parties, to say, oh, the speaker is controlling what we're saying, restricting what we're saying for partisan reasons. And there's a solution to that, which is to have a nonpartisan speaker who is not a politician from any of the parties. And that could simply be done. The legislatures can have as speaker whomever they want, and they could set up a system where they would have a public merit-based search for qualified candidates, people who had judged debates before and things like that, and then come up with a short list and have the speaker selected in the same way it is now by a vote from members. But have that you would, in order to apply for that position, you would not be able to have ties to any party. And that would remove the partisanship charge that's often leveled against speakers when they make rulings.
We've heard from both sides insinuating the other is resorting to personal attacks and heckling to distract from agenda items. I had the Leader of the Opposition and the Premier in our CBC studio both last week. What insight can you give us into why politicians do this? Heckle, throw insults. Is it strategy?
Yeah, it is in terms of trying to frame an issue. I don't think the surveys show that people want politicians focused on solving problems, so I don't think it really helps any party to be throwing personal attacks as part of a debate. But it's used, and again, that's why it's kind of a slippery slope, and you have to be careful about what you mean by decorum, because sometimes it's a joke, sometimes it's a bit of satire about a government action or an opposition party member's action or what they've said. And all the different debates about restricting free speech come into play there, and whether the speaker should be standing up and stopping someone from saying something, or let alone penalizing them for saying it, kicking them out of the legislature or suspending them temporarily. You just really have to be careful that you're not just restricting free debate, which people use different tactics in debates.
In a moment, I'm going to ask you, I want to leave 1 minute left here to talk about News of the Day question, obviously, about the fines and Heather Stephenson. But I do want one final question about this. And I want to ask you how concerned Manitobans should be. I mean, they're hearing Tom Lindsay say this isn't new, to start a session like this, to set the rules, to try to get everything to a baseline. But he says this is getting worse. How concerned should people be about that?
I think they should really only be concerned about if members are shouting down each other, because that's a waste of time. The debate's going to be stopped. The person's going to have to repeat what they said, and the legislature is going to get less done. And so that's a waste of the public's time and money. Otherwise, debate's supposed to be provocative and engaging. And if members decide to use personal attacks as their tactic, then they'll probably lose as much voter support as they'll gain. But it's their choice, and voters can make up their minds.
So to the news of the day now, just to get you to comment in our last minute here, all MLAs in the province voting unanimously to fine former Premier Heather Stephenson $18,000 on the recommendation of the Ethics Commissioner here, who ruled in May that Stephenson and two ministers violated the conflict of interest law. This is because the license was approved for the Alberta mining company CO Silica, but that happened after she lost the election. So it's the timing of this that violates the ethics. Premier Rob Canoe said this is the first time a former premier has faced a fine like this. How significant is this for democracy in your view?
It's good that there's a fine. There needs to be higher penalties for violating ethics rules. They are the most important rules after the criminal code for stopping self-interested and self-dealing. Bribery obviously being illegal in the criminal code, and then you need ethics rules to cover everything else other than bribery and breach of trust, those kind of things. But the system where politicians are voting on each other in terms of penalizing is just ridiculous. It's a kangaroo court. Politicians vote based on partisan bias. I know it was unanimous in this case, but it easily could be a case where it was a member of the ruling party. The ruling party has a majority, and then they let off their member because they have a majority and control the legislature. So they gave to the Ethics Commissioner the power to investigate and make a ruling. The Ethics Commissioner should also be given the power, like a judge, to impose a penalty, a sentence, just like judges are in other cases. And take away, politicians should never be voting on each other's behavior. It's just a recipe for conflicts of interest and partisan bias.
So I have to go to the news headlines, but just a yes or no, because this will lead to a follow. Do other provinces have that, where the ethics commissioner actually is the only one that's deciding and acts like a judge effectively?
No, unfortunately, they've all put it back to politicians. And again, it's a kangaroo court, and it will lead to bad decisions. And it's just not the way the system should work. The enforcer should be able to enforce not just whether you were guilty, but also whether you should face a penalty and what the penalty should be.
Appreciate you weighing in, Duff Conacher. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for your interest.
That's Jeff Conacher, co-founder of Democracy Watch. And now to those headlines with Heather Wells.
Good morning. Well, Manitoba's premier says he takes issue with a judge's decision to grant bail to a man charged in connection to a deadly crash last year. Premier Wab Kinew says the decision could lead to the public losing faith in the justice system. A warning today from Winnipeg transit officials for riders not to use artificial intelligence apps like ChatGPT to plan their bus trips. Bjorn Radstrom, Transit's manager of service development, says those apps produce wildly inaccurate directions. I'll be back with more Manitoba News at 8:30.
All right, thanks, Heather.
Thanks.
Well, we have had a couple of problems in traffic. I believe I'm actually going to lean on Corey. Corey, pop on in. Weather-wise, 6 degrees, and right now we're heading for a high of 15. It's going to be windy and sunny. After 8, we're going to hear about a Halloween attraction that had to cancel. They're now offering refunds if you were going to Fear Winnipeg, and we'll find out why and why they're asking the city for changes around permitting. Anything to mention traffic?
Yes. Southbound Archibald at Marion, very, very backed up. Lights flashing 4 ways because of a downed light standard in the far left lane on southbound Archibald. But Marion backed up quite a bit as well. 25 minutes just to get a few blocks for one person.
Okay. I know that's been developing. Thank you for running in.
Thank you.
788-3093 is where you can reach us. Stay tuned.
Today on Q. The poet Katharina Vermette has been thinking a lot about the circle of life. Not like the Lion King, but like how if you have kids, you could be someone's great-great-grandparent. She'll be here with a new poetry collection that explores that premise that we are all at once descendants and ancestors.
Because as we rise, we're bringing all of them with us.
Q with Tom Power. This morning at 10:30 in Newfoundland. And on the CBC Listen app. Or wherever you get your podcasts. The CBC News is next. Coming up in half an hour, it's The Current with Matt Galloway.
Zita Cobb launched an ultra-luxury hotel in her home community of Fogo Island. She used the project to build the jobs for the people who were already living there. Business leader Zita Cobb on how to scale up local economies, coming up on The Current.
Is World Report. Good morning, I'm Marcia Young. CBC News has learned Prime Minister Mark Carney raised the Keystone XL pipeline with U.S. President Donald Trump, and renewed interest in that project just may help open the door to tariff relief for Canadian steel and aluminum. Canada-U.S. Trade Minister Dominic LeBlanc says Canada is pushing to reach a deal on tariffs soon.
Steel and aluminum and energy. These sectors are amongst the ones that have faced the most significant challenges from the 232 tariffs. And in the conversation today, we talked about ways to quickly arrive at a deal that will bring a better circumstance to both countries.
A source who was not authorized to speak publicly told CBC Carney suggested Canada is interested in the pipeline again. Keystone XL was first proposed more than 15 years ago. It would move oil from northern Alberta to the U.S. Midwest. But the Obama administration shut down the project. Trump has said in the past he wants Keystone XL to be revived. The possibility of another oil pipeline is causing conflict between the premiers of Alberta and British Columbia. Katie DeRosa has the latest on that story.
It's a spat that escalated quickly. Last week, Alberta Premier Danielle Smith outlined her plan to get federal support for a proposed bitumen pipeline to British Columbia's north coast.
Major nation-building project.
BC Premier David Eby tried to be a good neighbor, tempering his opposition to the proposed pipeline. But now the gloves are off.
It's not the Danielle Smith show, it's the Canadian team. And we all deserve the same opportunity for the same federal funding for our projects as she does for her. That's not un-Canadian. That is fair.
Danielle Smith says
Premier By's comments are un-Canadian and they're unconstitutional.
Smith insists that private sector backers will build the pipeline if Ottawa removes roadblocks, such as the ban on tanker traffic off BC's north coast. That plan has the backing of Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe, who says no single group should be able to veto the project.
There is no BC coast, it's Canada's coast. There are no BC ports, they are Canada's ports.
Eby shot back.
I agree with Premier Moe. I think that all Canadians should be proud of our Pacific coast and the opportunities that affords all Canadians, including Premier Moe and the potash industry.
Following a meeting with the Prime Minister Monday, Danielle Smith insists that Mark Carney pledged to reach an agreement on the proposed pipeline by mid-November. David Eby, meanwhile, is calling on the PM to focus on shovel-ready projects, not what he calls a fictional pipeline. Katie DeRosa, CBC News, Victoria.
High-profile officials from the U.S. join the Gaza peace talks in Egypt today. U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff is arriving. So is Jared Kushner, the U.S. president's son-in-law. The U.S. is pressuring Israel and Hamas to accept a ceasefire deal proposed by the Trump administration. Ukrainian military officers are warning the Kremlin is waging a shadow war far away from the front lines. It involves Ukrainian civilians and improvised explosive devices. Covert assassinations, railway sabotage, and mysterious arsons are bringing a whole new dimension to the war. The CBC's Ben Maku went to Kyiv to investigate.
At a Kyiv training facility with Ukrainian soldiers preparing for a war that isn't just being fought on the front lines. An officer who CBC cannot name per Ukrainian protocol warns me about Kremlin spies inside his country.
The number of agents that Russia constantly maintains in Ukraine is excessively high. You can never underestimate the enemy.
Using the secrecy of the Telegram app, Russia's FSB spy agency has recruited desperate civilians in need of money or duped them into assassination plots and planting IEDs, to railway arsons and other sabotage in their country. In May, Ukrainian authorities foiled a plot involving a teen given an IED that Russia directed him to hide at a busy military recruitment center. Then in July, a Russian-sponsored assassin gunned down a top-ranking Ukrainian colonel in Kyiv. Stephen Ray is a counterterrorism analyst at the U.S.-based Institute for Strategic Dialogue.
Russia is basically exploiting vulnerable individuals who are desperate for some sort of money to carry out these attacks. They don't care if they're teenagers. They don't care.
To Ray, it's classic FSB.
We've seen this dozens of times where individuals across Europe who may or may not know of the Russian government's role in all of this are taking these cryptocurrency payments just to make a quick buck and carrying out these acts of arson and other types of criminality.
As the war in Ukraine nears its 4th birthday, so too does the shadow war. Ben Maku, CBC News, Kyiv.
National Guard troops are now just outside Chicago and preparing to deploy. The Guard members have been pulled in from Texas. It's part of the U.S. president's push to, as he says, crush crime in the city. The state and the city are suing to block the deployment. The former director of the FBI will be arraigned today. James Comey will appear before a federal judge in Virginia. He's facing charges of obstructing a congressional proceeding and providing false statements. He could face up to 5 years in prison, but many see these charges as a way for U.S. President Donald Trump to take advantage of revenge on one of his political foes. The CBC's Willie Lowry joins me now from Washington. And Willie, what can you tell us about these charges?
The charges date back to an appearance Comey gave before the Senate Judiciary Committee on September 30th, 2020. During that hearing, Comey denied that he had ever authorized the leaking of information to the press. The government says that's not true and has accused him of lying and of obstructing a congressional proceeding. The former FBI director who led the Bureau from 2013 to 2017 says he's innocent and wants to prove it in court. For years, President Trump has railed against Comey, who led the initial investigation into Russia interference in the 2016 election.
So what happens next?
So Comey is set to appear in court in the Eastern District of Virginia in Alexandria. The proceeding is expected to be brief, with Comey hearing the charges against him. He is expected to enter a plea of not guilty, and it's possible that a trial date could then be set. But the mere fact that Comey will enter the courtroom is significant. Comey's indictment came shortly after President Trump implored Attorney General Pam Bondi to take action, and that has many Democrats concerned. In a Senate Judiciary Committee hearing, Bondi refused to discuss the case.
Is it true that the career prosecutors in the Eastern District of Virginia found that there was insufficient evidence to bring criminal charges against former Director Comey?
I am not going to discuss pending cases because Comey was indicted in the Eastern District of Virginia by, I may point out, one of the most liberal grand juries in the country.
If convicted, Comey could face up to 5 years in prison.
All right, thanks, Willie.
My pleasure.
The CBC's Willie Lowry in Washington. An escalating game of cat and mouse is unfolding underwater. It affects parts of the North Atlantic, the North Sea, and the Baltic Sea. NATO allies are in a race to protect underwater infrastructure against potential threats. And Russian surveillance ships are being accused of sabotage. The CBC's Murray Brewster reports.
CRV.
Canadian Navy divers training to dispose of underwater mines and threats. Threats that are becoming more abundant around undersea pipelines and cables, particularly in the Baltic Sea and elsewhere in Europe, where there have been a rising number of cases of damage. Is it sabotage or accidents? Allies aren't sure, but are concerned about a Russian intelligence ship found loitering near those cables in the Baltic and off the UK. NATO has established a mission known as Baltic Sentry to monitor threats, but instead of divers, it's drones.
We are not building our own drones yet.
Germany's armaments minister, Jens Plotner, who has met with Canadian defense and naval officials to talk about possible cooperation on drones. Outside of Ukraine, which is redefining drone warfare, Canadian companies are among the most advanced researchers and manufacturers. Even still, Plotner says securing such a vast underwater network is going to have to be a responsibility shared with private pipeline and cable owners.
I do not think that it is the job of your government, nor of mine, to take care of every internet cable or pipeline down there. It's certainly also the responsibility of the companies. Can they do it alone? No, but they should significantly contribute.
A senior Swedish defense official was also in Ottawa recently, where drones were part of the discussion. Peter Sandwell, Sweden's state secretary for defense, says they'll do what's necessary to keep the Baltic Sea safe. Murray Brewster, CBC News, Ottawa.
That is the latest national and international news from World Report News Anytime at cbcnews.ca. I'm Marcia Young.
Good morning, everyone. A little chilly out there, but I've heard from guests coming into the studio, not as bad as yesterday. It's going to be nicer by the end of the day as well. Thanks for being with us. You're with Information Radio on CBC. This is 89.3 FM, 990 AM on that app and YouTube. Weather in a moment. This half hour on the show, it's October. We're getting into that spooky season and Halloween time. But a popular haunted Halloween attraction that was set to return this year after a 4-year hiatus has had the plug been pulled on it. Fear Winnipeg will not be happening. It promised to give people 500,000 square feet of terror, but now it's handing out refunds instead. We're going to talk to the organizer about what happened, why they had to cancel the event, and why they're now seeking some changes from the city around how they do permitting in Winnipeg. So we'll find out all about what's gone on here in a moment. Also, Heather is here with our news headlines, also in just a moment, live from our CBC Manitoba News Centre on the developing stories of the day. So let's find out more about what those are at 11 minutes past 8. Heather, what's going on now?
Good morning. Yes, well, MLAs voted unanimously to impose fines against former Premier Heather Stefanson and 2 of her cabinet ministers. An ethics commissioner report found the 3 violated conflict of interest rules in pushing for a sand mining project after the PCs lost the last provincial election. Premier Wab Kinew says he believes Stefanson's fine at $18,000 should have been higher. Some people in Wolseley are literally shaken up about a new bus route running down their street. Changes to the Winnipeg transit system has resulted in more than 100 buses running up and down Arlington between Portage and Wolseley. Rebecca Forgan lives on Arlington and says the new route is causing problems at all times of day, rattling people's homes and causing hairline cracks in homes. We'll hear more in our next local news at 8:30.
All right. Thanks, Heather.
Thanks.
Let's get into what's happening in the forecast now and some more detail with Abby.
Bright and mild across board. Sunshine in most of the regions this morning. The south will be warming up between 15 and 20 degrees, while up north we're going to see 12 to 16 degrees. Winnipeg, we are at 6 degrees at this time. Some regions sporting 3 to 5, depending on where you are in the city. It's clear outside. The sun already made its appearance. Sunshine will stick around all day. We're going to see some winds coming from the south, and that would push the high to about 15 degrees. Some clear conditions into the evening. The Pembina Valley, the Westman, the Parkland, the Interlake region, we're seeing 0 to 10 degrees in most of these regions, and most areas will warm up to 10 degrees, while up north we're seeing between 7 and 3 degrees, and highs would be around 12 to 15 degrees for most of the regions up north, except for Churchill, that will be getting to 7. But Winnipeg, it's sunny outside and it's 6 degrees.
All right, thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
Corey's going to mention the commute here. We have had a long lineup before 8 o'clock, right?
Yeah, so if you're in the area of Archibald and Marion, southbound Archibald, there was a traffic standard knocked down earlier this morning, and that's blocking that far left turning lane. It's also made the lights flash red in all directions, so everyone's treating that as a four-way stop. So as you can imagine, it's pretty slow going on Marion and Archibald approaching the intersection. Actually heard from the traveling Transconian. She said going westbound Marion, it took her 25 minutes and she's barely moved. So she says if you're kind of heading in that area, you might want to avoid that altogether. She's going to be late for work. She says, I imagine a few other people will too. So that's at Archibald and Marion. That collision was on southbound Archibald in the far left lane. Also heard from Jeff and Jamie earlier about eastbound Cumberland at Sherbrooke, that there is emergency vehicles on scene. They've blocked off Cumberland, so you can't go eastbound after Sherbrooke. Heads up there as well. Northbound, if you turn on to Stafford from northbound Pembina there, that it's very, very slow going. There is a construction that has things down to one lane at Grant, so it's pretty backed up there as well. If you hear anything else though going on, give me a call on the CBC commuter line and let folks know what you're seeing. That number, 204-788-3093.
And just a call coming in live while Corey's been on the air here. Archibald and Marion, you were mentioning, but the new one is a one-lane collision, Portage westbound at Mount Royal. So one of the lanes there is closed due to this. Portage westbound at Mount Royal is now an issue. And you can call the commuter line, as Corey mentioned, 788-3093. Well, a Winnipeg haunted attraction was set to return this year with a whole new concept.
They're locked between here and there, forced to stay to haunt the lake. They showed me art, gave him my face, said, let's make you something worse in this place. I saw Winnipeggers strapped in steel, screaming until they forgot what was real.
That's a clip from the promo trailer for Fear Winnipeg's spooky hospital-themed event called Black Site. Now, it's being touted as Winnipeg's largest indoor horror experience. The concept, 8 rooms, live actors, 500,000 square feet of frights. But the plug has now been pulled on the event. The city of Winnipeg denied a permit, citing safety concerns with the building. Some of the scare actors involved shared their disappointment on Fear Winnipeg's social media pages.
Definitely was kind of a punch in the gut. We put in a hell of a lot of work.
I was really bummed. I was really looking forward to the 12 days, and I had planned my whole life around it.
Really disappointed that this is getting canceled, but we're going to make the best of it. I've never felt as part of a group like I have here.
Jay Hall is in studio live with us on CBC. He's the organizer of Fear Winnipeg. Good morning.
Good morning.
So what was your reaction when you and your team got the news that you wouldn't be able to get a permit to do this?
I cried. Sat in a stairwell for about 2 hours and I cried and walked out and had to tell everybody that was there doing setup what was going on, and everybody else cried. And we were just completely heartbroken and now pretty angry.
What's the building and how long did it take to put it together? Is it a space that you guys own?
So it's in the family, we'll say.
Okay.
So there's an ownership group at the Winnipeg Cold Storage Building. It's a well-maintained building where we were doing the event. In fact, it's a well-maintained building in general. And the fact that this is allegedly about safety is just, it's a little ridiculous to me, because if it was about safety, there wouldn't be anybody allowed in the building at this point, and they would have stickered the building and kicked everybody out if what they're alleging was true.
So the Winnipeg Cold Storage Building is, where is it located? And
It's on Jarvis. It's right by I don't know if I ever say this right, the Slaw Rebchuck Bridge.
Yes, yeah, it's right by the bridge there.
Yeah.
Have you done the Fear Winnipeg events in there in the past, or was this a first for this space?
This is a first for this space.
Okay.
Yes.
So when did you find out that you weren't getting a permit, and why aren't you getting it? You've alluded to this a bit, but tell us what the city told you.
Yeah, so it was about 48 hours before we opened the doors after almost a year of trying to get them to come to the venue to give me their assessments. We were all set up, ready to go, except for cleanup and then some final things we were doing for the fire department and for the building inspector. We essentially were shut down for issues that were outside of our space. And it was because of past permits that the previous owners had not closed out, essentially.
So issues outside of the space, can you give me an example of what you mean by that?
Yeah, so I have the full list of inspectors' notes here. So there were some walls that were put up or demolished that were on the 4th floor. We were on we never went above 2.
Okay.
And they were done, but the permit wasn't closed out. Some things like exit doors leading out of a door, an exit door leading outside that had brush growing in front of it, which could easily be weed whacked in about 5 minutes. Mechanical equipment that was stored 2 feet into city property by the previous owners. And when the city contacted the current ownership group, they said, well, there was an easement here. We're not willing to pay the easement because we didn't put it up. So you can come tear it down anytime you want. And they said, okay. And then they never called back and they never did anything about it. Things like that.
Now, individual property owners actually might understand some of what you're talking about, because you inherit sort of permitting things from previous owners, even if you had nothing to do with them, and you're responsible for them.
When you know about them.
When you know about them.
Yeah.
Even when you don't know about them, if they discover them, you're still responsible for them. What do you think of that?
The 2 times, well, that's fine, but it should be disclosed in the sale, first off, and it wasn't. And second off, we asked myself and 2 staff members, when finally getting a hold of somebody in the permits office after months of trying to get them down, told us the building was clean.
So you, when you alluded to that and said you've been trying to get them down there for a year, that's what you were saying. You were trying to get them down there to organize the permitting. Is that right?
Yeah. So we're not mind readers. Events by their very nature alter a space. That's what we do. Before the building was purchased, my uncle had come to me and said, hey, we're thinking about getting this building. Would you do Fear here? And I walked in. I said, in 30 seconds, absolutely. This is Resident Evil meets Saw meets Walking Dead. It's great. But what ends up happening is I always know that the building inspectors are going to see things that I'm not going to see because I'm not a building inspector and I'm not a construction guy. I'm not a tradesperson. So I tried to get them down. They said, we will not come down. After months of trying to get a hold of them, I finally got a hold of somebody. It took 4 months between getting a hold of somebody and getting somebody to actually pay attention to us. But I told them, I said, I want you to come down and inspect. They said, we won't come down until you're fully set up. I said, that doesn't make any sense. And that's the nature of the problem, the timing of it.
You alluded to safety concerns. What safety concerns did the city have about the space?
So they're basically saying that a professional designer, aka an architect, would need to come in and certify the space because of the changes that were made to the permits that were still open from the previous owners.
With the wall on the upper floors and such.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about the work that went into creating Black Site.
Well, we started in November of last year. It was a community project, essentially. This is a passion project for myself and a lot of people. Yes, there's money involved, but we essentially took the space. Everybody looked at it and said, this really drove me nuts. Everyone's like, this building is scary enough. Why are you even doing anything to it? But you have to, it's a wide open building. You have to create spaces that are tight and, that people can go through, change the lighting, change out, the props. I spent $17,000 on extension cords.
Got it. And you built like a living set for people to experience this, really.
Yeah, we're live theater. We're a live interactive theater, essentially.
How many tickets do you have to refund now?
Thousands upon thousands. The total refund amount was around $630,000.
Some people might wonder why you'd sell tickets before getting the permit approved.
Because the permit people won't come out in time. They will not come out until you are fully set up. And that is my very biggest sticking point is they need to, if they're going to give event permits at the city, they have to understand how events are run. We need a pre-inspection so they can point stuff out and then come once we're set up and say, okay, here's the other things because of your setup. That's it.
The city responded. We reached out to them. They gave us a statement, and here's what it says about why the permit was denied for the space. Though you've already have your documents here reiterating this,
Yep.
but it quote, the safety issues were far-reaching and significant, and certainly not limited to the floors of the event space. The building is currently not safe for the proposed occupant load and use, and that information has been relayed to the property owner and tenant. So, what's your reaction to that? That it can't handle the number of people, because that's, I'm presuming, what the event load would mean.
Yeah, I think it's nonsense. I think that when the inspector went through the building, he looked at the event space and said, there's 7 deficiencies here, which we had a guy, when he came for a second inspection, we had somebody there who was fixing those problems as he was there. And as far as outside of the event space, what he said was, the work is done. You can see the work is clearly done, but there wasn't, the permit wasn't closed out. So if he's saying if they're saying based on the occupancy load that we wouldn't be able to handle it, we at one point had over 600 people in there, which is pretty close to our occupancy load. I didn't see any issues. And again, if it's about safety, it's really about safety, then there should be nobody in that building right now, and they should have stickered the building. They didn't do that. All they had to do was issue a conditional permit to the building owners and say within 30 days, you have to get a designer in here to certify this and fix anything that needs to be fixed. And if you don't, here's a huge fine for you. City loves to give out fines, so do that.
I know that, is it shuttered now? You can't get in there even at all? You can't even use the space?
No, you can use the space just fine. They haven't shuttered it. They haven't kicked anybody out. They
But
haven't
you can't
done
hold
anything.
your event.
Yeah.
If the permit came through like now, today, could you put this event up?
No. Yeah, well, people, it's a people-powered thing, right? We had 350 people in our cast and crew. They've gone back to their jobs. They've gone to other jobs. You can't disrupt people's lives like this and expect everything to be okay.
I know that you have enough concern around this in a wider way that you're creating a petition that's going to present it to City Hall. What are you hoping will change?
I'm really hoping that they will sit down with event coordinators, because I've had plenty of phone calls from other event coordinators saying, this is what we go through. This is the nature of the beast. I want them to sit down with event coordinators, listen to our concerns, and if it's a matter of resources, they already charge us for permits, charge us for pre-inspections, do whatever you need to do. And I find it weird that they're saying that this is one of my biggest gripes, is they say this is about safety, but yet they knew the permits under the old under the old owners were coming up. They'd be left open. Why didn't they contact them then? If it's really about safety, why aren't they following up with permits as opposed to laying them lapse and pretending like they don't exist, right? And again, if it's about resources, charge us for it. I don't really understand why it's always this reactive with the government. It should be proactive.
Can you can you financially survive this? I mean, now you have a building on your hands. You have, as you said, you spent $16,000 in extension cords alone. I mean, you got all these ticket refunding that has to happen.
Spent $19,000 just to refund the tickets.
So, what will this mean for your bottom line or your ability to work moving forward?
It's devastating for the show. The show does not go on unless we can figure out a way to get some of this back. And for me personally, I personally bankrolled the event. So a guy walked into the building. He had a reasonable recourse to take to allow the event to continue, and said, no, we don't want 350 people to keep their jobs. We do not want you to keep your livelihood, your nest egg, your savings. We do not want you to contribute to Harvest Manitoba. And we do not want the people of Winnipeg to have a genuinely unique experience.
So part of your proceeds would have gone to Harvest.
Yeah, and we always do a big contribution to them. The city shows up when we do Fear. Those bins, I remember in 2018 we had 4 bins they delivered, and within an hour they were completely full.
Jay, we'll see what happens next in the process and with your concerns. Thank you for coming in to outline what's happened.
Thank you for having me.
That's Jay Hall, the organizer of Fear Winnipeg. The event has been canceled for this year. Right now it is 8:27 a.m. And we have a bit of music actually to get us into the news. Cree singer-songwriter Kaylee Watts is with us this morning. She's one to watch with us in the radio, that is. Her debut album is right around the corner. She's got co-writing credits with Serena Ryder, Sebastian Gaskin, among others. This is East Wind.
There's an ember in the east wind. Is it an echo or a calling? But is it calling without an answer? than done. When you're trying to find a way, when you're trying to find a way, it's far from over when you arrived. You just made it to the other side. When you're trying to find a way, when you're trying to find a way. There's a darkness, there's an ember in the east wind. Is it an echo or a calling? But is it calling without an answer? Doesn't mean everything all at once. Sometimes it's easier said than done. When you're trying to find a way, when you're trying to find a way, it's far from over when you've arrived. You just made it to the other side. When you're trying to find a way, when you're trying to find a way. The only way is through, no matter what you do. With every road that ends, so another begins.
Kaylee Watson, East Wind. That one, by the way, was co-written with William Prince. I'm Marcy Marcusa. We are about to get into news time at 8:30. I just want to mention, as per our previous interview, if you have a story, whether you're an event promoter or just really an individual homeowner, about your experience with the permitting process with the City of Winnipeg, we would appreciate hearing from you. So if you have something to share, 788-3093. Big thing into news here when it comes to the commute is the one-lane collision that is blocking Portage northbound at Mount Royal, and then Archibald and Marion southbound Archibald. A light standard down earlier has backed a bunch of stuff up there. So 788-3093. Your news is next.
This is CBC News. Good morning. I'm Heather Wells in Winnipeg. At 8:30, we're warming up. We're also getting windy. A sunny, windy one. The wind south gusting to 50. Today's high is 15. Manitoba's premier says he is concerned about the impact of a judge's decision to release a suspect in a fatal crash on bail. A judge granted bail to a 26-year-old suspect in a semi-trailer crash last year that killed a mother and her child. The suspect in the case left the country and only recently returned. The Crown objected to the suspect being granted bail, saying it could reduce the public's confidence in the justice system. During question period, Premier Rob Canoe says he agrees with the Crown, and outside the chamber, Canoe reiterating his concerns about the justice system in general.
We need to recognize the public is losing confidence in the administration of justice in our province, in a general sense. And decisions around bail, when they get publicized like this, are contributing to that.
Canoe says judges and justices of the peace generally need to also consider the public perception in their decisions. The Premier says he is happy Manitoba's conflict of interest legislation has teeth. Last night, MLAs voting unanimously to impose fines against former Premier Heather Stephenson and two of her cabinet ministers.
Mr. Wharton.
I vote yes.
Mr. Wharton votes yes. Well done, Carson.
Red River North MLA Jeff Wharton voting in favor of a fine to be imposed on himself for violating conflict of interest rules. Wharton, former Premier Heather Stephenson, and her Deputy Premier Cliff Cullen all have been fined after an Ethics Commissioner report found they violated conflict of interest rules. Stephenson must now pay $18,000 for her post-election push to approve the CO Silica sand mining proposal. Canoe says he's pleased by the vote, but wishes the fine against the former Premier had been more severe.
You want me to editorialize a little bit? $18,000 fine to a rich person? Probably could be a little higher in my estimation.
Cullen has to pay $12,000, while Wharton, still a sitting MLA, must pay $10,000. Some people in Wolseley are shaken up, literally, about a new bus route running down their street. Changes to the Winnipeg transit system resulted in more than 100 buses running up and down Arlington between Portage and Wolseley. Rebecca Forgan lives on Arlington and says the new route is causing problems.
Early in the morning, late at night, and in the middle of the day, it is rattling people's homes. People with small children are worried. Kids play on their front yards in Wolseley, and it's disturbing. And there's hairline cracks in some people's homes already. Our ask is that they lower the speed limit officially to 30 kilometers an hour.
Forgan says transit put a reduced speed mandate in place along the street, but some drivers aren't complying. The Public Works Committee has passed a motion to study setting the speed limit at 30 kilometers an hour. The head of Winnipeg's Main Street project is encouraged by an injection of private sector dollars into a trust aimed at helping build transitional housing. The Collaborative Housing Alliance Real Estate Investment Trust announced yesterday it had received millions from True North and the Mann Family Foundation. Jamil Mahmoud at Main Street Project is encouraged to see the backers put the needs of people over financial gain.
It's really about centered around the need and the people who'd be living there versus what that return on investment or kind of long-term value for an investor would be. It's more about the outcomes for the community, the people in the city of Winnipeg. So that's really exciting to see that shift.
The Collaborative Housing Alliance Real Estate Investment Trust was developed by the Business Council of Manitoba. A warning today from Winnipeg Transit officials for riders not to use artificial intelligence apps like ChatGPT to plan their bus trips. Bjorn Radstrom, Transit's Manager of Service Development, says some people, particularly students, use the apps, but those apps produce wildly inaccurate directions, something he discovered when he tried them for himself.
It was terrible. It was a disaster. It was giving completely wrong information. It was telling you to take routes that haven't existed for years. It was telling you to take routes that have never existed, or telling everybody to crowd onto the blue line. So these AI engines are not designed for this type of trip planning.
Radstrom worries misinformation may be adding to overcrowding on the Blue Line, which already sees more pass-ups than any other corridor. And a tough loss for Canadian baseball fans.
Diving stop at third by Caballero. He will throw it out, and that's the ball game.
That's the ball game. The New York Yankees coming from behind to beat the Toronto Blue Jays 9-6 last night in Game 3 of the American League Division Series. The Jays were ahead 6-1 at the start of the night. Toronto now leads the best-of-5 series 2-1, and Game 4 tonight in New York. You can find more news updated throughout the day at cbc.ca/Manitoba.
All right, 6 o'clock. We can watch it. It's early. I like that.
Yes, me too. We'll be watching.
Thanks, Heather.
Thank you.
So Heather Wells and Megan Ketchison and Joni Nicolo, thanks to all of them in our news department. Our live team, Abby Adiemi, Corey Funk, Darren Marash, our senior producer, Leif Larson, our producer of shows, Nellie Gonzalez, as well as our associate producers who had items in today's Information Radio. Big thanks to Chidi Akuma, to Shanley Vidal, our community reporter, and to Carmen Ponto, another associate producer with us. Thanks, everyone, for your work. We're getting ready to wrap the show. Last look at the morning commute. Corey?
Archibald and Marion, lights are flashing red because of a down light standard right at southbound Archibald in the far left lane at Marion. Very, very backed up, as you can imagine. Keep right if you're heading southbound on Archibald. Also, eastbound Cumberland closed at Sherbrooke. Emergency vehicles on scene we last heard may still be an issue.
Abby?
It's going to be a pleasant one. Mild conditions we'll see in the southern parts of the province, warming up to 19 degrees in most of the areas, while up north we'll see temperatures warm up to 7 and 15 degrees in some parts of the north. Winnipeg, we are at 6, heading to 15.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for listening to Information Radio here on CBC 89.3 FM, 990 AM, on the app, on YouTube. Take care, be well, and we'll be back again tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of your day, Manitoba. I'm Marcy Marcusa. The Current's next.